It's the Bennington Show, and today we start voting on the Comedian of the Year. I'm Ron Bennington.
I'm Gail Bennington.
And we'll also, Gail, be voting on the Comedy Movie of the Year. All this done in conjunction with the iBang, and they've got a lot of cool stuff there, including your chance to get Bennington T-shirts, and one of my favorite things all year, the Club Speak. And that's where all the clubs around the country talk about what their big highlight of the year is. It's normally Bill Burr stopped in.
Remember that time that Bill Burr stopped in?
Yeah.
It's that.
It always has a tendency to be,
A drop in?
Yeah, Chappelle was playing in Atlanta, swung by our club, and they're fucking thrilled. They flip out over it. Comedian of the Year going to be tough to pick this year, huh?
It's going to be a tricky one.
I think I got my vote in.
Yeah.
You know, I got contacted by Big J, who, you know how I said on the air last week, maybe I'm done with stand-up. And he said, I'm one of the elites and I wouldn't quit. And I go, well, this has nothing to do with you, does it? Jay? You also said Carson Wentz was going to lead us. When I told you the whole time, his name is Big Dick Nick.
You were so right.
He's a big game quarterback. He's a big game quarterback. He doesn't panic over the pressure. He's not a little fucking Irish setter running around in the backfield. What do I do? What do I do? He fucking settles in like an adult.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's big dick energy. I mean,
It's big dick energy, and also they're both Christians, but one of them's a very good Christian. Beady-beady-doo. It's fun today. This starts all the year-end stuff. And also, we run a couple of best of segments that everybody asked for over the year. One, it was just after you had the baby, but I was in Jamestown and got together with the original SNL cast.
Yeah, that was probably like a good week afterwards. It was all very new. I remember that.
It was all very new. Everyone was like, congratulations, Grandpa. As if that would hurt my feelings somehow. I'm like, no, I fucking love it. And they were like, do you feel like you're going to die soon? I go, I felt like I was going to die since I was 15. I've been expecting that fucking bullet. But by the way, and please do me this favor, the National Comedy Center is currently, out of 20 institutions nominated for the Best New Attraction by USA Today, I believe they're in second place. Second place. And it's, if you love comedy, there's so much great stuff there. And this, of course, will help them. Go to comedycenter.org/vote. We will tweet it out and let you get a part of that. You can vote once each day per device. And if you could retweet it and get some stand-up comedians to retweet it, well, God damn it, we would all thank you. Voting ends January 7th. Best New Attraction, USA Today. That's America's newspaper. So coming up in just a couple of moments, but if you haven't figured out what to do on New Year's Eve, who knows, maybe it'll be the last time you see Ronnie B on stage. I was bullied into doing this event. I wanted to take the night off. I wanted to watch the Royal Canadians with Guy Lombard bring in the New Year. Really, really a tradition for me. I've been watching that since 1938. All the classy, top-hatted people in New York to get together.
Sounds like something a grandpa would say.
You know what? I don't have any problem with that. I mean, we did win World War I, World War II. We've got a lot to celebrate. But anyway, go to the Stand pop-up show, which is at this, they said it's like a little theater gig. I don't know. Adele started it, and Patrick got involved. And Patrick said, all your friends are going to be there, Ron. And then listed off different people. It was very Oh, it's nice to be
Yeah.
wanted.
Well, sometimes bullying can be nice.
Oh yeah.
Like if you don't use violence, but
Right.
then you use compliments instead.
I was bullied into losing my virginity, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But at least I got it off the books.
That sounds like rape.
Well, now looking back on it, I would say it wasn't. We weren't of equal power. What do they say about that now? It's like that's like the big
Right.
thing.
Right.
That
If you're not at the same point, if one person has, an edge over the other person,
Right.
something to hang over their head,
Yeah.
not a good.
Whatever. At the time, it just felt like okay.
I think in 2018, though, the rules have all been made clear. 2019 starts. No more rapes, no more inappropriate things. Everybody does everything good.
Everybody does everything good. You just have sex with someone who is in your same financial class,
Yeah.
but you don't work together.
Mm-hmm.
You both have to be of the same religion, and both totally sober. No partying sex.
No, and make a gentleman's agreement beforehand. Like a shake on it. This is our terms.
I disagree. I think it should be in writing and maybe even put on Facebook so everybody knows. We're going to do it tonight, kids. All right, let's see who some of these comedians believe is the next breakout star.
The breakout comedian of 2019 will be Emmy Blotnick, because she is original and fresh and brilliant and a delightful human being. And I think this will be her year that everybody knows how talented and funny she is.
Gary Goldman, his breakout comedian of the year, is probably the one that I would have picked. Emily Blotnick is so damn funny and so incredibly hardworking. She always has new stuff.
And it's a good sign when you just hear people buzzing about that person. And
Right.
Absolutely, this year I've been hearing a lot about Emmy.
I've probably followed her about 10 or 11 times down at the cellar, and every single time I forgot I was going on next. I was just watching her set. She's really funny. And here's the other thing I think that's going to make her, I would build a sitcom around her because she's very quirky, and she is the girl that you should have chased in high school instead of the prom queen. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like that's the sweet spot for
that's
female
the sweet spot.
comics. It's the best.
All right, who do we got next?
Next up, let's hear from Rich Voss picking his breakout comedian of the year.
This year's breakout comedian. First, let me do process of elimination. I'm going to take myself and Bonnie out of the running because, anything can happen with us at any point. I'm going to take out all the comics that were on vossroast.com, although everyone was great and they deserve to be the breakout comic of the year. I'm going to take out new comics, although there is so many funny new comics, but can they sustain being breakout comedy of the year? So, in my opinion, this comic, who is a veteran, one of the funniest people alive, I think should have been a star years ago. To me, the breakout comic of the year is Jessica Curson. Also, if anybody else says Jessica Curson, please have them go after me so they don't think that I copied them. I'm the first to say Jessica Curson is the breakout comic of the year. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep halfway through that. That was Rich Voss talking about Jessica Curson.
Jessica Curson is always my breakout comedian of the year.
She's too funny.
I love her
She
so
might
much.
be comedian of the year. She's that damn funny. It's the Year in Comedy Awards. Who's next?
We're going to the West Coast to hear from Earl Skakel.
I think the young breakout star of 2019 is a comic I've met out here in Los Angeles by the name of Ron Taylor. Periodically, I host the open mic portion of the show at the Comedy Store, and I got to put up about literally 100 comics every time. And Ron constantly to me anyway, proves to be the best one. He's from Detroit. He just moved out here about a year and a half ago, and I believe he's the newest paid regular at the Comedy Store. And to me, he's like a combination of Eddie Murphy and the great late Charlie Barnett. Just super likable. He's just something about him. You can't take your eyes off him when he's on stage, and he's got this great smile that just instantly draws you in. I rarely say this about comics. I think he's going to be the next big thing because he has that it factor.
Wow, high praise. Now I definitely want to see him.
I know. That was huge. Ron Taylor. Check him out.
Ron Taylor, my new favorite comic. I can't believe they put 100 people up at open mics. That sounds like a nightmare.
That's horrible.
Could you imagine if you paid to see that show? It's just comic after comic after comic.
Well, there was a lot.
I'd rather be in a gangbang that lasted that long.
Next up, let's hear from Brad Williams picking out his breakout comedian of the year.
Hey, everybody, it's Brad Williams, and I think the breakout comedian for 2019 is Mateo Lane. You may have seen Mateo Lane on this 15-minute special on Netflix, and, man, the guy can tell jokes, he can sing, he has amazing abs, he has a well-manicured mustache, and for all these reasons, I think he's going to be a big star, and if you watch the special, you certainly know why. So look for big things from Mr. Mateo Lane in the very near future.
Well, you're preaching to the choir now, my friend.
Yeah, of course we love Mateo Lane. And also, if you want to follow his really sexy Instagram account, it's getting very sexy.
Too sexy for me.
It's reading like a Grinder account, to be honest.
I was looking at Instagram in a restaurant, and the waitress is like, okay. Why didn't he play Freddie Mercury? Why didn't we put some big teeth on Mateo Lane?
That would have been perfect.
You know, and why wasn't he Mr. Robot? I mean, what the hell's going on here?
He'd never hide his abs under that hoodie.
Yeah. Baby is so excited
she
about
is so
this.
excited.
Yeah.
She wants to be breakout comic.
Yeah,
of the
you're
year.
breakout comic of the year, aren't you? As soon as you learn English. She's an anchor baby.
Now let's hear from Greg Stone. This is Greg Stone's.
His name is Greg Stone.
His name is Greg Stone.
I think Brendan Ayer is going to have a big year this year. Last year he had a crazy fucking attack. He tried to kill himself. Real depressing shit. But now he's back, and I honestly don't think he's going to be stoppable. So I think this year is going to really just change for him.
I think you're saying that to be kind. And you also outed him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me be the one said I tried to commit suicide. Not you, Greg.
But I do think this will cheer him up.
Yeah, now I want to meet him. How do you fail at committing suicide? Who's stopping you? It's you.
Cry for help.
Oh, is that it?
I think
just say help. I'll be there in a heartbeat.
They couldn't use their words.
What do you mean their words?
I mean, I guess whoever just has to cry for help, they couldn't use their words. They need to use an action.
Okay, gotcha. Now I understand. I thought there was more than one.
Now let's get this thing started. Let's start it out with Comedian of the Year.
And now, here are your nominees for Comedian of the Year.
All right, Gail, let's do it this way. What the hell was that at the end? Let's do it this way. You read off the list of the comedians of the year, the nominees. Everybody go over and check it out at the ibang.com, and make sure you vote early and vote often. And as we get into this, Chris Stanley, you were going to have your first shot of the party?
I would love to, yes,
Yeah.
because I have a leader of Jameson here. You know, I'm gonna take it from the bottle.
You're
for
not
the
going
first
to take
one.
a shot, Gus?
I mean, I know how much is in a shot.
What are we, ice skating? We're sitting around This is something you do after you get drunk, not before. All right.
To the year-end special.
Okay.
Yay!
Is Earl, did you want to do shots with him, or Vito, Gail?
I'm breastfeeding.
Pass.
I could pump and dump, I suppose.
Juliet, would you like to do a little shot?
This will not be her first.
She's
thing.
teething.
No.
She's teething.
No.
She needs help.
She likes a little shot. Oh. She wishes she was doing something else. Sorry, honey, you got a working mom.
Fun, isn't it?
All right, read off the nominees.
All right, so our comedian of the year nominees are Gad Elmaleh,
Oh, God.
Michelle Wolf,
Whoa. Controversial.
Joe Rogan,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Big year for Joe.
Hannah Gadsby,
Oh, Nanette.
Bert Kreischer,
Bird.
Hassan Minaj,
Big year.
Son.
Cat Williams,
Cat. Every year's cat year.
Yeah.
Ali Wong,
Yes. Ali.
Yeah.
Tiffany Haddish.
Ah.
Ow!
Everybody loves Tiffany. She was in every single movie this year and most of the TV shows.
And finally, Judd Apatow.
Oh.
Judd Apatow, I'd like to see that kid get a little something, you know? A little something to perk him up, give him the strength to keep moving. I think since Chris, you did the first shot of the year,
Thank you, Ron.
is that turning into the second shot already?
I mean, look, we want to get it started, right? It's
Get
like
what
that,
started?
you know, the party.
He said it. Once it hits your lips, it's so good.
He also tilts his head to the side like some kind of a Cockney thing that I don't even understand.
Like instead of tilting the bottle, he tilts the head.
This is also what he does too. He does a shot of whiskey as a drink of Coke. Shot of whiskey and then a drink of Coke.
Yeah, because, you know, it tastes good. Combined, it tastes even better
Yeah,
than
no,
alone.
no, some people combine things. No, they don't have it separately. This would be like biting into a hamburger, then a spoonful of ketchup for you. All right, you're going to start it off, Christopher.
All
What do you
right.
got?
For my comedian of the year, without a doubt, it's Mr. Cat Williams. It's been the year of the cat.
What
What
has he done big this year?
Okay, he's won an Emmy for his performance on Atlanta.
He was great in that, what was it, Alligator Man?
Alligator man.
Yeah.
He do got an alligator.
All right, that sounded racist.
He had his Netflix special, which was hysterical, Great American.
Great American, where he did a lot of local material.
Like, the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was all Jacksonville.
Yeah, I like that, though.
And he was only arrested once this year, and that was even later in the year.
That's sad. What was he arrested for this time?
He attacked a driver.
But you also forget he was in that big fight when he laid out Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah, and Kevin Hart, and Gerard Carmichael, and Lil Rel.
And then that led to him pulling a gun out on somebody.
So look, we had great, he was great for his career and great in his personal life.
You know what? Every year is the year of the cat. You are correct about
And
that.
for those reasons, that's why Cat Williams
Okay.
is my comedian.
You
of
know,
the
you're
year.
not voting him off the island. Having said that, all right, over to you, Vito.
My comedian of the year is Judd Apatow. Love just had its third season. He was the executive producer of the Zen Diaries with Gary Shandling. Crashing is going into his third season. I think this was just a crazy year for him.
Well, everyone agrees, producer of the year, but what about his stand-up?
Well, he did not release a stand-up special this year.
Oh, that's,
Cat Williams did.
That's rough. That's rough.
Poking some holes in there, Vito.
All right, Earl Douglas. What black person do you pick as your?
My black woman is Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Now, why is that, Earl?
Emmy Award winner. She won for Saturday Night Live, for hosting Saturday Night Live.
I had no idea that.
Yeah, she was one of those non-televised ones.
Oh, I don't like that. That's all. That's a stand.
It was her and Cat Williams who both got the non-televised
That's
Emmys.
very weird. This is racism.
Thank you.
Racist.
We
Anti-
finally discovered racism.
racism and anti-comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The
she,
there's
worst thing.
There's always anti-comedy in fucking show business.
she's on the show, The Last OG with Tracy
Love it.
Morgan.
And she kind of plays that straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, plays it straight, but every once in a while, the old self kind of rears its ugly head.
Yeah.
Really,
Also, she's so damn beautiful. Is that an unwoke thing to say? Because Kat's beautiful too.
Hell yeah.
She hosted the VMAs. Of course, she did a lot of movies this year.
She has movies that you don't even know. The Oath. I saw a trailer for it once, I think, and then I never heard about it again. She's just in everything.
She's in a lot of stuff.
And she always steals it on when she makes talk show appearances, and she's on the short list for hosting all the major award shows.
Really? Okay. All right, Gail, what do you have?
My comedian of the year hosted The Break on Netflix. She is also the host of the Correspondence Dinner. Trump didn't show up, and I believe is going to be the last comic to ever do it, and that's Michelle Wolf.
Yes.
I think you've got to put her as comedian of the year. She topped the news. I think she became a household name this year.
And also, she's just a machine, man.
She really
she just
is.
has such great comedy.
And I think she's also one of those comics that you talk to other stand-ups and they have nothing but like a tremendous amount of respect for her and are always talking her up about her, like how hard she works and how much she puts it out there.
Yeah, she's just great. Everything about her is just great. Look who doesn't like her very much.
She's pro-Trump is a thing.
Yeah.
She didn't like that smoky eye comment.
Earl, don't you try to hush Gail when she's talking. You know, women have every right to talk these days. All right, I shouldn't have went last because now it looks like I'm the one dropping at other people. Ali Wong had just such an amazing year. Joe Rogan's the biggest thing you could possibly do. If you're selling a book or anything, go on Joe Rogan's show and get rich. Hassan had an unbelievable year. Hannah Gadsby probably had the most talked about special of the year. But I'm going to go with the guy who has just worked it for so long. His Netflix special was amazing and had the simple best ending to any special I've ever seen in my life. And he does it all without wearing a shirt. I just think that he's terrific, and everybody in the country thinks that this is their best friend, Bert Kreischer. I thought, and I'm doing that simply on special alone, unlike you people who are always looking to bring stuff in from the side. I'm a purist, okay? I'm an old blues man. And that's special. I mean, his children are never going to talk to him again. His wife should divorce him. I mean, people talk about edgy. He laid out every personal detail, his and his family's life, and never took a break. I mean, a lot of people are very casual in their specials, but Bert's special is just like watching a puncher. I mean, he comes out like Joe Frazier, and he stays that way. It's a really great special. He did it in Philly. But anybody that's list could win because it's just it's an unbelievably solid list. So go to theinterrobang.com and make sure you vote. Tweet it out to your friends. Put it out there. It's always great to see who wins these. And this is one of the first years. Oh, by the way, let me just say this. The fact that Gad works in a different language than the one that he grew up in might be the most difficult thing I've ever heard of in my life. Think of one American comic who could go to France, learn the language, and be funny. It's impossible. So again, Bert Kreischer, Gad Elmaleh, Gad Elmaleh, Joe Rogan, Judd Apatow, Hannah Gadsby, Hassan Minhaj, Michelle Wolf, Tiffany Haddish, Cat Williams, and Ali Wong, who just owns the whole goddamn game right now. I mean, she has made an audience out of nothing. It's just purely her audience.
And the fact that she could have a follow-up to that first special. I mean, that first special came out, and it was just so shocking, and everyone was crazy about it. And then she had a second special and just followed it up. It was just as solid, just as funny, just as talked about.
I also think, I don't know if she's ever going to do another special because I can't see her getting pregnant again. Two's plenty, two's a big family these days. You see what we're going through here with one. Just literally ruining the special. Chris Stanley,
Yes.
Enjoying yourself today?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
'Cause to the comedians of the year, all.
To the comedians of the year, all. Yeah.
You all deserve it, but especially Cat Williams personally.
All right, let's not. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You had your chance. You made your case. You're like Rudy Giuliani. Every time I turn around, you're screaming for your boy. So that's Comedian of the Year. Shocked that we started it with the big prize, but very, very exciting, you know? So we've got so many more to do, but you've already heard the Comedian of the Year. Go over to the iBank and vote now.
Let's get into some more comedians picking their breakout comedians of 2019.
Okay, I think the breakout comedian of 2019 is coming out of New Jersey. I'm Canadian, but, my heart is in New Jersey. And the breakout comedian is going to be Allie Mae Brand of New Jersey.
Bonnie McFarlane, I think that if you should say, I'm in New Jersey, but my heart is in Canada. Not I'm Canadian, but my heart is in New Jersey. Allie Mae Brand, let's go next to Michael Yo.
I think the breakout comedian of 2019 is going to be Fahim Anwar. I see him perform all over Los Angeles. He absolutely crushes it at the Comedy Store. He does some projects on Comedy Central with Hassan Minaj, and this dude is so talented, one of the most brilliant writers I've ever met or seen live on stage. So Fahim Anwar, look out for him.
All right, let's hear Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham's breakout comedian of the year.
Caperland. I love Caperland. I think she's going to break out. And she's already kind of broken out, but I think she's on a rocket ship.
I hope Bo Burnham gets out of that well that he obviously was in when you were talking to him. But Caperland on a rocket ship.
He's in a well, she's on a rocket ship.
It's all great.
But I highly agree because Kate Berlant is a fantastic talent. She's unbelievable.
Probably too big already to be in this. She's been in movies and TV shows. Gonna break out now from what? Into what? Oculus?
Now let's hear from Brent Moran, his breakout comedian of the year.
I would say the breakout comedian of 2019 would be Jason Collins, just because he's a funny guy. A lot of people know, but he hasn't really blown up yet. He's been opening for me the last year, and he's just wildly talented. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I don't know if it's fair to pick an act. You know what I mean?
It's cheating.
Yeah, it is cheating.
Because then, that means you'll get bigger. They're getting bigger.
Everything works out for everybody. Dave Hill, who is always the most well-dressed comedian working, picks his breakout comedian of the year.
I think the breakout comic of 2019 is going to be Claire O'Kane. She's totally hilarious and weird and unique. And if you don't think she's funny, I'll stab you.
Oh, my God. No, Dave.
Save that for
No,
Dateline.
Dave. But I do agree with him on one thing. Claire O'Kane is a huge talent. She's super fantastic. I had her as a guest on Gail Meets Girls and met her on The Best Show with Tom Sharpling, and she's so, so funny.
Great show business name, Claire O'Kane.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wish it was my name.
You can change it if you want.
I don't want
You want to be
now.
Ron O'Kane?
Claire. Anthony DeVito. Let's hope he doesn't pick Greg Stone again.
I think the breakout comedian of 2019 is going to be Sam Evans. He is he's like one of the funniest comics in New York City that I feel like is slept on. And I might have also said he was the breakout comedian of 2018, but I think this year is definitely his year. So yeah, that's the way I think it's going to be.
Well, Anthony, check your notes. And second, don't talk while you're riding a bicycle. It's very, very dangerous. Oh, that baby, huh?
She doesn't like Anthony DeVito.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't get along with anybody right now, it seems like. Before we get into movie of the year, Chris Stanley, you said you wanted to give a toast.
I want to give a toast out to all the Celluride comedic films that we're going to be talking about in the next few moments. because I love them all, really. But there's one I love more than others. To the movies of the year.
I'm going to ask everybody else, what's he mean by Celluride?
No idea.
Telluride? Celluloid.
Celluloid.
I combined celluloid, whatever.
What did you do?
I combined Telluride, like the festival, and celluloid.
This has nothing to do with Celluride. Nothing whatsoever.
It's okay.
I know it's okay. I realize we're not working with plutonium here. Your mistake will not cause a meltdown.
Good.
But I'm just saying there was no reason in the world to bring it up to an obscure movie festival that we are not affiliated with.
No, not at all.
We should point that out.
Yeah.
We have no right to use that, let alone to call them Celluride.
I just saw Vito's eyebrow go up. Like, what did he say? Said something was wrong.
Could you give us another appropriate toast?
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to give a toast to the Bennington Show, to the interrobang.com, to Jameson whiskey especially.
All right.
Sippy sip.
All right. That's silliness. All right, let's get into the Celluride Comedy Movie of the Year. I'll read off the list of these. I'm saying it for the first time. I always refuse. Oh, we have somebody to read off the list?
We have an announcement to play.
And now, here are your nominees for Comedy Movie of the Year.
Oh, he's not going to read them off?
No. For Celluride Movie of the Year.
Who needs them then? All right, here are the nominees. Stan and Ollie. Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Crazy Rich Asians. Sorry to bother you.
That's okay.
Black Klansman. That's good, Earl. Don't worry, he won't get too far on foot. The Year of Spectacular Men. Blockers. Boy, we're getting a little desperate here, right? Tag. And Deadpool 2.
Woo!
Oh.
Deadpool 2!
I'm going to tell you, there started to be a little filler in this thing. Let's start it off with Earl. Earl, I know this is difficult because you have two black movies to choose between.
Very difficult choice between said two black movies.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with Sorry to Bother You.
Wow.
It was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. It was the craziest movie. It was debut from writer-director Boots Riley. Had a plot that kind of ties in with the times, and then it goes in a whole other different direction that you really don't see coming. Great performances by Lakeith Stanfield, and I think a breakout star of the year was Tessa Thompson, who's always great in all the roles she's done. But
and so beautiful.
Yes, and
Mention it.
the chemistry between the two of them is fantastic, and I absolutely love this movie.
You were crazy about it, huh?
Loved it.
Anybody else like this movie?
I loved the first half.
Same.
Love the first half. And that thing happened, I was
Yeah,
out.
no spoilers,
Yeah.
but it did get turned.
And that's when Earl said no one saw it coming. Why would they? I'll say this. I saw this movie and loved the popcorn and red licorice that I got. It was quacktastic. Let's go to you, Vito.
My movie of the year is
comedy movie.
My comedy movie of the year is gonna have to be Tag. I saw it on demand, and
Tell me you're kidding.
I did not expect to like it at all, and it was funnier than I thought it was gonna be.
It would have to be.
The action sequences, just
by action, you mean grown men playing tag?
Grown men playing tag, but like in an action setup. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Maybe my expectations were so low that it just shocked me, but it was really funny. And Hannibal Buress is great in it. John Hamm does the typical like kind of.
Do you realize you've already talked more about this film than the director could? The director, I actually saw his quote. I did it for money. By the way, I'm saying this as a man who never even saw the film, and I feel that strongly about it. Gail, what do you have for your comedy movie of the year?
My comedy movie of the year has to go to Black Klansman. Fantastic Spike Lee joint. Juliet's first movie.
Oh, congratulations, Juliet.
Yeah, it was just a really fantastic film. Smart, really funny dialogue into really intense drama, into just a heartbreaking ending. John David Washington was incredible in it. Adam Driver was fantastic. Topher Grace, I feel, played it a little too well. I'm concerned.
Yeah,
he was very comfortable.
That's very
in that
Topher. Yeah. Let's go to Chris Stanley. What is your comedy movie of the year?
My comedy movie of the year would be Gus Van Sant's "Don't Worry, He Won't Get Too Far on Foot," with the lovely, wonderful, talented Joaquin Phoenix.
Now, what is it that you liked about this film?
I thought it was dark and it was funny and it was a sad story, but ultimately there were plenty of laughs in it. And then I just love watching Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I struggled through this movie only because I have a phobia about being paralyzed, and there was some really extreme scenes of how difficult it is, just to do whatever. So I don't remember laughing. I don't really remember laughing at Black Klansman, although I thought it was really, really a great movie. I didn't really think of it that much as a comedy.
There was some very funny dialogue in it, but it's like that funny mixed with tense.
I'd say dramedy, maybe.
You're just trying to think of things to say. I mean, you don't mean it. Or was it a comma? Which was it? You're just trying to think of things to say. I mean, you don't mean it. Or was it a comma? Which was it, a dramedy or a comma? All right, I thought because I was going last, I was going to have to dig in deep, but you guys have made this very, very easy on me, and that's the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I mean, come on. It's easily the funniest movie of the year.
Yeah, there were some really, really funny moments in that movie, but it's just overall, it was smart and unique and
it was
very,
just great. I mean, it was actually a comedy. I mean, I know it didn't have a lot of black people or paralyzed people, so maybe it's not as woke as your movies. But it was actually, in a lot of ways, a really old-fashioned movie, and it was just it was great. And I remember when I heard that these guys were releasing it on Netflix, I was very disappointed. I'm like, okay, here's a throwaway project for them. They're not going to really care about this. It's great.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Beautifully shot, too.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
Really, really
I appreciate it.
Oh, that was you?
You know, I'm just saying, I was thinking about how badly shot Father You was. And
I'm going to say that Ballad of Buster Scruggs is the best
Thank
Netflix movie released on Netflix. And like you said, throwaway
Ever?
everything. Yeah, ever. Every other movie released on Netflix is literally a throwaway piece of garbage.
Oh boy, here goes the whiskey.
Look to the Coen brothers and Gus Van Sant, my pick. And the Paralyzed Americans of the United States.
Oh, God, no.
All right, you hit 3 already.
Yeah, come on.
Pacing. It's a long show.
Call me Indiana Pacers right now.
Not going to call you that.
Reggie Miller
That's
over
what
here.
he wants to be called, Ron.
I'll go, oh, this is my friend Indiana Pacers. I'm like, why do you call it that? I go, he really paces his whiskey drinking.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
He paced his whiskey so well.
All right, so that was the comedy movie of the year. You can vote on this and, of course, comedian of the year, so many other things. Go to the ibang.com. Make sure you tweet it out to your friends. Text it to your friends. Hashtag it. Instagram it.
Sext it.
Yeah, I've started an AOL chat room.
Oh, nice.
And I want everybody to come in. I'm the moderator, so be careful. I have the ability to kick you out.
Tough but fair.
Don't toss me out of this room.
And don't forget, guys, you can go to the iBank to vote for Comedian of the Year and Movie of the Year. And when we come back, it's the best of Bennington.
The best of Bennington.
You know what happened to me today? You know I'm having a bad day, right?
You are.
Shit.
You see what I have around my neck?
Oh, no.
Nothing. This is, by the way, why I don't want expensive glasses. They fucking... You saw I wasn't doing enough to fucking break these glasses.
No, nothing. You did
And by the
nothing.
way, I had this hand on, so why would the other fucking
I have
thing fall
no
off?
idea. Oh, no. And it's not even like where the screw is. So that's not even a situation that I could repair it. Like I thought maybe I could get a eyeglass repair kit.
You have zero skills when it comes to fixing my glasses.
Yes, but it broke right
Jen,
at the
I want
arm.
you to know something. Today is the worst day of my life. Why? I did not wear, I hate to call it my lucky Virgin Mary, but that was, that was made for me by Kathleen from the Bronx.
Yes.
She's always been like,
a good luck charm.
She is. She's like being friends with a horseshoe, you know? She's my fucking rabbit's foot.
She's like
All
your
right?
leprechaun.
Yeah. Chris, you know what you are?
What's that?
My broken mirror.
Oh, Jesus.
My Friday the 13th.
It's really bad.
My third on the match. Where does Vito go during the show?
I don't know where he is.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask him.
Now, don't bother asking him. Because here's the thing, Jen. If you were really curious, you would have asked on your own. You don't meet. I can't be your curiosity. You got to hold this up like I'm some fucking rich lady at the opera. Because I can't see. Everything's fucking falling apart.
Oh, no. That's not
I just
good.
want to announce something to the audience. After my many, many years in radio, today is my last show.
No, just because of the glasses?
The glasses are just the straw that broke the camel's back. That fucking camel's back has been shattered in 6 different places. And its spine is severed.
Oh, God.
Okay?
Poor
As of
camel.
right now, the camel is paralyzed. And if you know somebody who can do a spinal fucking operation on a camel, then you met somebody that hasn't been born yet. So I'm going to take a gun and shoot the camel in the fucking brain. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it.
Don't do
If you'd like to say farewell to me, 844 Rock God, 844 Rock God.
No.
Because after today, you shan't hear from me again. I will no longer be living a public life. My life will be private. My life will be between me and my privates. Okay?
A private life. I didn't
Yes.
realize that's what that meant.
I'm taking my privates out to live in the country. I'm going to the country, then live a private life. Could that song be fucking sold to more commercials? If I was producing that song for Can Heat, right? And I do, I love that song. I'm going to the country, baby, do you want to go? I'd actually go like this. Do we want to try it one more time in tune or leave the out of tune thing in there? So anyway, this is it for me because I cannot and shan't get my life together. Did you love Natasha and Moshe?
I did. I loved them so much. They
Me
were
too.
awesome.
They are what you would call a cute couple.
They are.
And Natasha is adorable.
Mm-hmm.
I already dig her from being the mean wife on Dice's show.
Yes.
Because I don't know why, but I do like when Dice gets beat up on by her. Well, first of all, she's always right and he's always wrong. And then the way he doesn't care. But I think, to me, this is the Dice fucking TV show is hysterical. And if you're not watching it, because it's already done for the season, go back and watch it already through. But there was a line that I think he was talking about his career, or is this his life? And he's always gone, what is this? What the hell is this? You bring me glasses, right?
Yes.
What are these made out of here? It's like a wireframe that pinches my nose. Thank you very much. I'm going to wear this now, though. Vito, you have jumped ahead of Jen and Chris. Oh my God, look, I see perfectly. You know what? Now that I see this, I'm even more sure that my career is over and I'm leaving after today.
Why?
To live in the country. And probably my dream, churning buttermilk. Do you realize that buttermilk is only 0.01% of the beverage market. Do you know how far I can go ahead?
Oh, yeah.
If I become the buttermilk champion? Let's suppose I only get the 1%. I'd be making $60,000, $70,000 a year. Gosh, most of it under the table. No, but seriously.
Is this farm to table buttermilk?
Oh, direct. I'm not doing anything to it. I'm just getting the milk, throwing some butter in it. I'm throwing a stick of butter in it.
Sounds great.
And I'm shipping it exactly to your table.
I didn't realize that's what that is.
Yeah. You just take a stick of butter, pop it in a gallon of milk, and ship it right out. And with the Bennington farm to table buttermilk, you do not have to refrigerate.
Really?
Buttermilk tastes the same whether it's fresh or spoiled.
Sounds like the perfect beverage.
Difference in taste.
What, is it unhealthy if it's spoiled? Is it bad for you?
That's up to you. All right. I'm in a Steve Bannon. I don't want to get a bunch of fucking government overlooking at me.
Okay.
I'm telling you exactly what's in it. It's milk, stick of butter, shipped to you. Keep it in the garage until you're ready for it. Take a drink of it. It's going to taste exactly like buttermilk. You're going to go, buttermilk. But it's good and it's delicious. Look, I'm going to come up with a woman who's 140 years old and she drinks buttermilk every single day. Now, do you want to live as long as her? Or do you want to fucking die in the streets?
I don't want to die in the streets.
Thank you. I found out through our marketing, 99% of the people do not want to die in the street. Well, if you don't, there's only one way around it. Buttermilk. By the way, we will give you $100 if you tattoo buttermilk across your belly, or if you name one of your children Buttermilk. $5 if you call your pet that. Buttermilk.
Are you saying buttermilk?
Yeah, buttermilk. Comes from the butt of every cow. Buttermilk. Sean, what's up?
Ronnie B, are we talking about from the titty to the city buttermilk?
Oh my God.
You might just have written my new slogan. Pretty good prize closet.
Yeah, from the titty to the city.
From the titty to the city. Everybody drinks the buttermilk. Yeah. And I'm actually going to have like a close-up camera that'll be squirting down in your face. And you're going to follow that along to the big gallon jugs, ceramic gallon jugs.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Drop a stick of butter in there, and then straight to the city. Dude, I love that thing, from the titty to the city. Billy in PA. That means a lot to me, Billy. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here all this time, Billy. I love you and the people of the Harrisburg, the conservative people of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Harrisburg, where we act like it's the 1950s. Harrisburg. Don't come around here telling us we can't smoke indoors. We're Harrisburg. It's been so great working with you guys.
Are you sure you really want to do? I mean, to give this all up just for your new love of buttermilk?
Looking for a slower, more peaceful time. You know, I just have to say this. I just want to be in a small farming town where I know everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can depend on them. If I could say, guys, could you all come over on Saturday and build a barn at my place? And I know they'll do it. Or I could say, guys, could you come over here and milk my cows and then drop a butter into each gallon? Or if I could say, guys, drive my stuff into town, collect the money and bring that money back to me, guys, because we're a community. And while you're at it, could you keep my books? Try to figure out, you know, how to get the best fucking deals that you can get for me. And when you get a chance, could you do my dishes? There's been dishes in there for almost 4 hours, guys. We're a community.
It's not very community-like.
And could you drive me into town? I got to go to the mall. I want to see a movie. I want you to wait outside while I'm at the movie. And then after that's done, I got to stop. Look, why don't you go in and just see what you can rent for me at the movies? Pick up some socks for me. Come back here. Finish my laundry. And then wake me up tomorrow at noon to give me that money. Thanks, everybody. We're a community. Jake, what's up?
Hey, I had another slogan for you, Ronnie, for your buttermilk.
Yeah.
From the teeth to the street.
Boom, you're going into the pretty good prize closet.
Good. Teeth to the streets.
Chris Stanley, you're supposed to be my fucking action guy. 2 of these came in, you've got nothing.
I got nothing so far. No, not for the. It is
City to the city. Teeth to the street. What do you got?
Buttermilk those profits.
That's not their business. I mean, they don't want to think about the profits.
Like the buttermilk's going to make you a lot of money.
Yeah, but I don't want to tell them that.
Oh.
Yeah,
do you ever hear this? Come to Disney so we can get paid. They don't fucking do stuff like that. Oh, these glasses, huh? It's been a horrible day. I'm glad that I'm going to go out to my place, which I've already named Green Acres.
Green Acres, like the show?
I didn't see the show.
Oh, yeah.
I came up with this.
Okay.
And here's my motto. Green Acres is the place to be. Farm living. That's the life for me.
Seems like you've seen the show.
Land spreading out so far and wide. Chris, Gail, keep Manhattan. Just give me that countryside.
Did you have to give us the finger?
Yeah. Now, Gail, New York is where you're going to stay. Because you gather allergic smelling hay. She gathers allergic. What a great fucking line that was.
I didn't know that's what she said. I owe it my whole life. I thought she said, I get allergic smelling
You know what?
hay.
You're probably right. Why would you stop that for me? Lance, Louisiana.
Hey, what's up, buddies? Ron, congratulations on a great career. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, man. I feel great about it. I'm leaving radio behind me. I leave your legend.
I got a great slogan.
Yeah.
Buttermilk, the utter milk.
Pretty good prize, my friend. You couldn't come up with that, Chris.
I got one. Best breast buttermilk.
No, best breast.
It comes from the breast of the milk comes from the breast of the cow.
Dude,
best
you're
breast
costing me fucking prizes.
Shit.
Brian, Tallahassee.
No, I got one for you.
Give it
utter
to me.
To the gutter.
Utter to the gutter.
Okay.
Pretty good prize, closet. What, Sam and Chris?
Fuck.
Goop in Canada. Goop.
Yeah. Hey, from the udder with some butter like no other.
God damn it, Chris. To the prize closet, Goop. I can't keep giving out all these prizes.
This is crazy.
There's only so many prizes.
They're bleeding us dry like buttermilk itself.
Oh, when I sit back on the farm thinking about today, I'll be raged, but then also nostalgic for these years. Last night, I was at the stand, and a young comedian did a dead-on impression of Barack Obama, and I had a moment of nostalgia.
Really?
And
Just hearing...
I thought to myself, I don't even think I appreciate it. Barack Obama the whole time he was here.
I know.
If someone said to me, do you like Barack Obama? I'm like, not really. You know what I mean? I felt that way. Like, man, I think he could be doing more. He could be doing more. He doesn't push enough. But, you know, I guess I don't even know whether I'll get TV where I'm moving. I'm moving out so far in the country. So let me check with this song. Go to the country, we don't get TV.
Sounds like no.
It's going to be nice there. It's going to be so wonderful. I'm returning to my roots, and I need to do that. Tony in L.A.
Órale, from the nipple to the people.
Unfucking believable, Tony.
This is really good.
Yes.
From the nipple to the people.
Chris, you couldn't get one of these. You just bring up...
I got one. I got another one.
Okay.
There's no udder like butter milk.
You kind of really...
It doesn't rhyme. You can't rhyme with the first fucking part of it.
And also, you kind kind of stole the other and the butter from someone else.
That's original.
No, someone just said
that guy was talking about Neeples.
No,
before Neeples to the peoples.
Giving out a lot of prizes here.
I know, and you fucked me. Al, hold on, I'm on the phone. All right. Al in Maryland.
Hey, guys, one more catchphrase.
Yeah.
Utterly buttery.
Dude, straight to the prize.
Utterly buttery. So good,
Yeah, it
right?
barely rhymes.
No, it does.
It does rhyme. That's what a rhyme is. Yours is rhyming the first syllable, which no one ever does.
Yeah, you had to go milk at the end of your rhyme, and it didn't make sense.
You should have went from the udders to the buttermilk.
Shit. Can I use that?
No.
He just gave it to you.
I'll tell you something I shan't miss about New York City.
What's that?
And that is a 1C stand.
Oh, no.
Now, we're doing the big Thanksgiving show.
Mm-hmm.
An old friend, a dear old friend, asked if he could come to the Thanksgiving show. I said, there shouldn't be any problem with that. Chris checked to make sure. And that dear old friend was told, if you come, you'll be arrested.
No, are you serious?
Yes. Yes, I'm serious.
I really wanted that dear old friend.
The dear old friend would have been a giant pop. So, and that's what I'm looking for, pups. Call me Pops from this point on.
Pops Buttermilk.
Hi, I'm old Pops Buttermilk. Are you tired of milk that isn't buttery enough? Well, we got the other milk. It's called buttermilk. From the teats, the old streets. From the nipple to all you people. This is Rosie. She's the only cow we use here. She's sassy. This is the only cow in America that eats French toast.
Lucky.
This cow put roller skates on and bring them right to your stove. Rosie, use them big old titties of yours and make some more buttermilk. Shake it up. Make it buttery nice. This buttermilk is so creamy and delicious. You can wipe it on your toast in the morning. Last night, Rosie and I, that's my cow, sat down and watched the movie Goodfellas. And I swear to God, she screamed when Joe Pesci was shot in the back of his head. And I looked at her, I said, Rosie, that's why I left New York City. Came out here with you country folk. Because there's no way to stop Italians from shooting each other. Sometimes the news is so bad, I just need some buttermilk to make it go down a little smoother, a little easier. My grandma used to put gin in her buttermilk and then tie off her arm and shoot some heroin into her. Yes, this is the commercial. Of course, my grandmother was half Apache. And she was ready to throw down in her changes. But every night, she'd rub some buttermilk on her tummy and on all the way down to her private area. Buttermilk is good for all kinds of things. Magic Johnson drank buttermilk every day till he beat AIDS. Now, I ain't saying that buttermilk can cure your AIDS, but it could be. And it could be for all you know. My own grandfather used to rub buttermilk on his balls. And he lived to be 43 years old. Died from stanky balls. Everybody asks me, what's the secret to your buttermilk? And I'm going to tell you right now, we mix in a little peyote and ginseng weed. And you drink that buttermilk, you won't be tripping your balls off. This buttermilk's so good that if Barack Obama drank it, he'd go straight down on Donald Trump. Why? Tripping his balls off. Chris, I am very disappointed in you.
I feel bad. I don't like giving out all these prizes. I want to sell this buttermilk.
Today's my last day.
I really wish it wasn't.
Yeah, this can't be your last day.
I mean, I understand you have a new passion now.
It's not a passion. It's just a job to me, to tell you the truth.
Really?
It seems to you like you're so passionate.
No. I just throw myself in any job. That's the beauty of it.
Oh, wow.
I've just now dropped my pen. Everything in my life is mixed up. I got to get out to the country.
You really do, because... Oh, man.
I've also decided this. When I moved to the country for the first 3 years, I'll live in a home without a roof.
What?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
2 reasons. One, I've always wanted to paint Starry Night, and I need to fucking focus on it.
Okay.
2, I just don't have the money for a roof right now.
Jesus.
I am a private man, but I'm in some deep financial trouble. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a roof for a long time.
Worried about this buttermilk business.
It seems like it's a pipe dream. I mean, just because I drink buttermilk doesn't mean I know how to make it. A lot of people are writing me that putting a stick of butter doesn't even make something buttermilk, and I could set myself up for future lawsuits.
It sounds delicious.
Chris, we got any more tickets for Dimitri Martin, or are we all out?
We are all out of the Dimitri Martin tickets.
Where's he performing at?
He's performing at the Gramercy Theater. That's a Saturday, October 28th, 7 p.m.
Call him, see if he needs anybody open.
Okay.
Tell him I got my new buttermilk character. I'm really excited about.
Pops?
Hey, Pops, the buttermilk guy. Did you see Bill Cosby has to borrow $30 million off his house?
No, I didn't see that.
His place, and it's not far from me, from where I live now. And I don't think he's lived there since I've been there. Does not look like a $30 million home to me.
Really?
But that's what happens now in New York City. But I bet when he bought that place in like the early 80s, he probably spent $400,000 on it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And now it's worth $30 million. And now here's the weird thing. I own 5 of those homes.
What?
Yeah.
You still can't have a roof?
I didn't even think that I could sell one of the homes.
Looks like this dream's back alive.
I might end up getting 2 roofs. What is a house but a roof? Huh? A house without a roof. Like a mouth without a tooth. A phone without a booth.
Oh, we do have those.
Oh, they do? Shit. Throw that out, Jen. Stop stenographing for me. What is bothering you?
I threw my arm out during Pops. I threw my shoulder out when I was laughing.
Were you going to be able to pitch tonight against the Astros? Did you watch the end of that game last night?
I did see the end of that game.
You did or didn't?
I did. I did see
You
the end.
said didn't.
Yeah, I said did see the end.
Well, at least there was another syllable. You went, I didn't see
Vito,
the end of that game.
Vito, how quickly can you get that response up so he can hear the way he talks? Because you said didn't, but you had a smile on your face, like a relatable smile, like you wanted to talk about it.
See the end of that game.
I don't want to go out with you tonight. Where are you taking your girlfriend this weekend?
I think we're just going to stay in New York.
Staycation, huh?
Just the weekend.
Are you guys very close now?
I say we're very close, yeah.
Just feels like you're one person sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
Are you saying your relationship is ready for a 3-way?
What?
Oh, yeah. You're at that level now.
No group sex. No group sex.
What if she asks for it?
Well, then it'd have to be a discussion, I guess. But
I don't like guys like that. I don't like guys who are like a woman says, this turns me on, and then she would say no. Do you agree with that, Jen, or disagree?
I disagree.
Really? Do you even know what you're saying? Because you have headphones on?
Yeah, no, I heard.
So you were saying a woman said to a guy, this is what I need sexually, he shouldn't be there for that.
I think it's his choice.
Wow.
I would
Yeah, you know what? It's also your choice to leave. I would say. Men are not men anymore. We are at a time where I have to say young millennial men, such as yourself, Chris, don't seem like the old school men that I grew up with. I grew up in the time of the Marlboro Man, okay? You know who was on that $1 bill when I was a kid?
Who's that?
John Wayne.
Wow.
John Wayne was on the $1 bill. Humphrey Bogart was on the $5. $10 bill was just Nagasaki. It was a fucking giant atomic explosion. That's what's changed in this country.
Oh, that's quite a bit different.
And now Chris Stanley won't give his lady what she desires.
That's what she really wants? It sounds like it
whatever
does.
she desires, you won't give to her. You say, let's have a discussion.
Shouldn't you be
Why don't you open
open-minded?
it- yeah. Why don't
That's
you open-
actually millennial,
Why
right?
don't you pay like this? Come on, let's sit down and talk about this woman to woman. Kind of feel like, I've had a lot of problems today.
Yeah.
I feel like the only thing that could make me feel better is hot, cheesy carbohydrates. Is there a place called Hot Cheesy Carbohydrates?
I'm sure that there is a place that we could get some sort of carbohydrate with melted cheese on top of that carbohydrate.
Or if there was a carbohydrate dipped in melted cheese, fried in cheese oil, rolled in flour, refried, and then someone just sticks a tube and just pumps cream into that. And cheese, creamy cheese.
Do we have that, Chris?
We don't have that exact thing.
Then I want nothing.
And put bacon on it. Because bacon, right, guys?
Here's the thing about bacon. I had a pet pig when I was a child. We used to call him Stingy because he was stingy with his food. And it was a Vietnamese, like a little potbelly pig. And I used to take him everywhere with me. Everywhere. And like everybody in the neighborhood would go, here comes Stingy. Oh, and Ron. That's how popular this pig was. It would be weird to say it was like a brother because a brother doesn't seem close enough. And Stingy was delicious.
You eat Stingy?
It was basically living bacon. Do you eat food?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so did I. Let's not judge. It's farm life. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm heading back to. What do we got coming in today, Chris?
Mr. Bobby Slayton.
You just said it like you brought him out on stage. Mr. Bobby
Slayton, everybody. Put your hands together.
That is a weird thing to say too, right?
People,
Put your hands together, yeah.
People like to say it
I
in
know.
that context.
I think I've said it too.
Yeah. And it's always in the context of bringing someone out.
You will never say, did you put your hands together for him?
Yeah. Or like, you should have heard that crowd. Everyone was putting their hands together. Fast, over and over.
Clapping is a very strange thing that takes place.
That we chose this act to say, like, happy, like it. Because it's not a laugh. It's not like it's not a response that happens that's out of your control.
It's
That's something
respect.
We chose.
Right.
And we chose to show admiration and respect by slapping our palms together.
Now, do you ever see like the old beatniks would do this?
Yeah.
You know where that's from?
It's like it was supposed to be quiet or something.
Yes, they were in the village and they couldn't clap. They would end up, making their neighbors upset. So they just would.
But it's when I know that I used to think it was just because they thought it was cool because it looks cool.
Well, it actually became what was considered cool. You know what I mean? And people would start doing around the country like, hey, we're doing this too, man. Even though this is a freestanding building and our closest neighbor is a mile away. Here's a weird one. In Europe, they don't boo, they whistle. Everyone starts to whistle.
A whistle is a boo?
Yes. Now, they don't bring whistles and whistles. They will actually
just like
pucker up and whistle all together. And you'll see that at soccer or what they call football or non-American football, they call it.
What if we had chosen just stomping instead of clapping? Like if that was just...
I've been places where people have stomped when they're excited too, though.
Yeah, I mean, like, if that was the standard, I don't know, there's something kind of cool about it.
Something fucking super cool. Like you could picture James Dean stomping. I thought fucking Vito was stomping when he ran the other day.
It's just his regular run. Unfortunately, he's heavy-footed.
Vito, I'd like your mom to get here in 5 minutes and play this game against Chris Stanley, or else she is disqualified.
Bring it, Leslie.
I'll work some magic right now. I'll try.
Work some magic. She couldn't get here in 5 minutes if she needed to.
Like, yeah.
You and your mom watch TV together?
Yeah.
What shows? What's the shows that you and Leslie enjoy?
We like the ABC family sitcom block.
What's that?
So like the Modern Family, Blackish, Fresh Off the Boat, Speechless.
What's Speechless about? Somebody, is it a deaf family?
No.
Or what is that? Mute?
No.
Mute.
MS. The kid has MS or cerebral palsy.
And this is a comedy?
Yeah, this is a comedy. Minnie Driver stars in this.
I can't laugh at that.
No, but he's all good. Like they did a Halloween episode where he was mad that the murderer is never handicapped, so they did an episode where he got to be the murderer as a handicapped person.
Isn't that taking them down a peg rather than up a peg? But it's a really great premise, the handicapped killer.
It doesn't come up.
No, I've never even heard of it before. It's a great premise for that kid to come up with. I hope he did, and the writers didn't give it to him. Do we hear anything more about Tampa's serial killer? I kind of feel like he's not a real serial killer because he's a shooter.
Yeah, there's no new deaths that were reported. I think there were three. There's three, which made people call them
three of them like a half of each other.
Yeah, all gun, all shootings.
Now, you can be a serial killer because Son of Sam was considered a serial killer, but it's not as, it's not as gripping.
And then the DC sniper, would that be serial killer?
Oh, that's a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
But I would agree it feels weird. Like with a gun, it just doesn't feel the same. And I think that's because we have this thing where we think serial killers like cherish the victim and do like up close
smothering and knives.
Yeah.
Look, he posed the victim afterwards.
Yeah. Seems like too quick for someone to make it their thing.
And yet, there must be some kind of a jolt to his system. You know what I mean? I think that he lives in that block. I think rather than a regular serial killer, it's just an insane person.
Yeah, just as
I mean, I know that you're insane to be a serial killer.
Right.
But I mean like a non-planned out, really bad serial killer. My favorite kind of serial killers are drifters. They drift from town to town, creating their death opera, and then they move on to the next town, probably changing identities. If I had another identity, I'd call myself Bon Rennington.
Nobody would ever suspect.
It'd be my way of laughing, leaving behind a little thing like the Riddler would.
Sorry, sir, did you say your first name is Bon?
Yes, Bon Rennington. Now, please, allow me to move on. I've shown you my papers. They're written in crayon. Chris, if you were a serial killer, what would your instrument of death be?
I think I would use plastic bags to smother people, to choke them out.
Oh, I hate that.
So they'd find the bodies with like a plastic bag.
I understand that, but have you ever heard of anyone being murdered with a plastic bag in history?
No, but so I'd be the first.
You'd be better off using saran wrap.
See, I figured I'd kidnap them.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely would be knife work. Because I think that the thing about the serial killer, it's supposed to be sexual and it's penetration. And I think that's why it would be good.
Would you like if they say an artist with that blade?
Yes, I would. I would appreciate it as I watch the news.
So
and they
far,
don't even know it's a woman.
So far, we have sharp stiletto knife and hefty bag.
Go with the bag, man.
No, they'll call you the hefty killer.
That'll hurt my feelings.
They'll put up a picture. The person looks like this. It'll just be a snowman. But they're going to go, I know this seems crazy. I think there's a serial killer movie coming out called Snowman.
I've seen ads where it's just like a little stick figure drawn snowman.
One of the early reviews I wrote, Snowman more like Stinkman. It's supposed to be terrible. Vito, what would be your instrument of death?
You know the thing that they use to cut clay? It's that sharp cord. I would just run up behind people and
that's the Italian trick.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yes,
it's Garrett.
Yeah, what's it called?
A Garrett.
But Italians, that was the scene in The Godfather where he threw that around, or they would use a piano wire.
Yeah.
So you think you've invented something new, but it's just in the tradition of your people. It's merely you being in a long, endless line of criminal Italian types.
In my DNA.
Did you ever commit a crime before?
Nothing. I've stolen. I've done some minor stealing, pirating.
You've done some pirating. You went
Like,
from island to island.
Some digital pirating.
Did you still dress up though?
Yeah, I would sit by my computer with an eye patch.
Do you feel like a computer when you digitally steal something?
Yeah. I feel like I'm fucking like one on the 7 C's of the internet, just stealing shit.
Chris, you never feel that way. You feel like all information should be free.
Yeah,
open.
hack the planet.
Yeah. What was the stealing that you've done? What was your thievery?
I used to make mix CDs where kids would give me lists of songs they wanted because I figured out how to burn CDs, and I made like a good $800 in 8th grade just making mix CDs for kids.
If you made $80, I'm shocked. When people said, you know what I mean, he made $800, there's no fucking way.
800?
Now, where did you get the downloads from?
LimeWire.
Oh, yeah.
So what I would do is I had a system where I was like, all right, you give me a CD. It's $10 for the CD. But if you want it like quick, it's going to be $15.
That's
so
just
then,
buy the CD. Wasn't that?
But it was because I would give personalized like mixes. It wasn't just like a straight up album. It was like I will go
now,
find
can we all
every
agree
song you
he
want.
didn't make $800 off
It was
of
over the course of a year.
If over the course of the year you made $80, I'm shocked. And by the way, that's gross. I know that you had to buy the CD yourself.
Well, yeah, but those were so cheap. They were just giving them away at Rite Aid back in the day.
So why wouldn't you say to yourself, I'll do it a little cheaper?
Yeah.
What made you suddenly turn into Sony?
Because I wanted to make that money.
And everyone at that point had access to LimeWire.
Everybody had access to LimeWire, but a lot of the kids my age couldn't figure out how to get it from LimeWire to iTunes.
Calm down about
Nobody believes this story.
Bullshit.
Fucking one person who caught you in the lie was Chris.
But he
just said everybody had access.
Yeah, but you had access to.
Can I give you $80 so you can get me online right now? I want to see what's happening on Drudge Report.
But it wasn't about like you had access to LimeWire, but it was a lot of people couldn't figure out how to transport the music because we were like 12 years old.
What are you saying?
People were 12 years old. Back then, people were 12 years old.
That's who I was selling it to. I knew
People
my
weren't
audience.
even listening to CDs
There's
then.
people that are 12 years old now.
They all had,
You didn't invent 12 years old.
I didn't invent.
No, but you acted like you came up with Little League.
No, I'm just saying, like I had a business.
We caught you in a fucking lie. It's not a business.
Lie all the
it's
time.
a lie-ness.
I'm not lying. I had enough money where I bought one of those expensive $300 championship belts. Like I was just rolling in money.
Vito's mom turned to him and she said, "Go start a business.
Go start a fucking business right now. Pushing hair around everything. You know? And then I give my lunch a cup of cola. Okay? That's provolone.
The best of Bennington.
Journey Gunderson. Hello, Jamestown. Welcome to the home of the new National Comedy Center. I'm pleased to report that we have visitors in town from all 50 states for this week's grand opening. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to celebrate one of the most incredible and enduring comic institutions in our nation's history, Saturday Night Live. Your host for this evening is one of the most respected interviewers in the country. You can hear him each day on The Ron Bennington Show on Sirius XM, and also on his award-winning interview series, Unmasked. Let's give a warm Jamestown welcome to Ron Bennington.
Johnny. Wow. So cool to be here tonight. There's so many great shows going on, but I think if there's one show that you'd like to have tickets, it's to this show tonight, Saturday Night Live. And as I come walking out, I see George Slaughter, the man who created Laugh-In, is sitting in the audience tonight. Wow. Now, Saturday Night Live was one of those shows that changed everything in comedy. This was pretty much the Beatles of comedy in the 1970s. And let me just tell you who we've got on this panel tonight, because this is pretty amazing. Alan Weibel is here tonight, one of the original writers. Five-time Emmy Award winner, 2 Writers Guild Award. Now, not only did he write for Saturday Night Live, but he wrote for Curb Your Enthusiasm, and of course, it's Gary Shandling's show, which he co-created, and many, many others. And it looks like his play about Gilda Radner, Bunny Bunny, is going to be returning to Broadway. It's just amazing. Also, Lorraine Newman is here tonight. Not only was she one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live, but she also started the Groundlings with her friends, which has kept American comedy filled for generations. Lorraine Newman is here. And also, a gentleman who was not only a not ready for primetime player, but also a blues brother, a Ghostbuster. Dan Aykroyd is here tonight. Let's bring out our guest tonight. Are you ready? From Saturday Night Live, it's Alan Weibel. Lorraine Newman. And Dan Aykroyd. Musical chairs as we get started here. It's a nice way to start this off. First of all, congratulations for a couple things. Here we are 43 years after the start of this show, and people still want to talk about it with you every day. What does that even feel like?
It's pretty amazing. It's 43 years. I'm a grandfather now. It was a very long time ago since I had electroshock therapy, and we're still here to talk about it. And Saturday Night Live has been this institution. It's the Today Show. It's just always there, and it goes through all these different permutations of cast members and writers, and it just feels great that we were a part of this at the beginning.
Is it shocking to you, Lorraine, that this is...
Yeah, because it was only supposed to be 13 weeks. But I love it. You know, I've started watching it after the 90s because there was no DVR at that point. And I love it. I'm so inspired by the new writers, the new performers. It's always just showcased people with very unique styles and voices.
Now, what about for you, Dan? Did you see this taking off like this 43 years ago?
I think after the George Carlin night that we knew that it would endure, it just worked that first night. And Lauren said, I'm not going to do a pilot where you got to give me 7 of them, so that by the 7th show we'd served ourselves well and proved ourselves. But look at what came after. Look at the work of Phil Hartman and
Yes.
Dan Hooks and Farley and Eddie Murphy and
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. And now today the show is really more necessary than ever, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kate McKinnon is like a gift from God.
Oh, God. Brilliant.
So it just keeps coming and coming, Yeah.
That is the amazing thing, is they keep finding this talent. But even now, I think more people have been to space than have been a cast member on Saturday Night Live. It's still a really special thing for anybody to get that show. What were the 3 of you doing before you got this gig? Like right before you got on Saturday Night Live?
I was writing jokes for comedians who played in the Catskill Mountains. I was giving $7 a joke. That was the going rate.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear a $7 joke, I'd be happy to. First joke I ever got $7 for, I was 21, and a comedian called me up and said, Alan, can you give me any jokes about sperm banks? So the first joke I ever got $7 for, I said, they have a new thing now called sperm banks, which is just like a Nord bank, except here, after you make a deposit, you lose interest.
Yeah, that's what.
I honestly think that's an $8 joke. I think you could have got an extra.
Yeah, I think he screwed me too. You're right.
Lorraine, what about?
Well, I was in the Groundlings, and thank you. And I was working for a booking agent for rock bands with names like Pat and Pending, and the girl was Pat. The biggest act that he represented was Cannibal and the Headhunters. And I would type up contracts, and also I had worked with Lorne on a Lily Tomlin special. So.
Yeah. So he had you in mind as you were doing that. But I think the difference from you two coming from LA as a young girl at the time, you're in your early 20s, and moving to Manhattan in the middle of the 70s, not everybody made it out of there alive. That had to be pretty scary.
Well, I was really inexperienced, and I was a young 23. And I had no family there. I didn't know anybody there. And Gilda was my first friend, actually. Wow. And she introduced me to a lot of my future friends. I think the first thing she did was take me to a recording of a National Lampoon record. And I met Bill Murray and Brian Doyle Murray and Chris Guest and Harold Ramis. And those were the first people I met when I was in New York.
Dan, what about for you?
Well, I was in Toronto at Second City, the company up there. Yeah. So basically doing that, and I was also filming a movie at the time called Love at First Sight, where I played a blind man who drives a car and feeds his fish pepper instead of those little cans, they're red and white. They look like pepper, but fish flakes. He thought he was feeding fish flakes, but the cans felt the same. He was killing his fish with pepper. It was pretty good sightless jokes in there. Valerie Bromfield and I did the first movie, and then Marianne McDonald. But I was working on a film and doing Second City, and I had a radio commercial business with Dave Thomas. Dave and...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I also had my 505 club. I had the speakeasy going, and so I had a lot of rackets happening. Always something on the side,
So, did you see this as a big break, or was this just another project for you when you got on SNL?
For me, total, absolute. I wasn't hired right away. I had to kind of get in there because Lauren wasn't sure about hiring both Belushi and I, because we came to the show, we'd already cooked up the Blues Brothers, and he was afraid we had a cabal already, and I'll hire one of them but not both. So it was Gilda and Franken and Davis that convinced Lauren to hire both Johnny and I, really hire me along with John's. Yeah, so
It was John that was the hard sell.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, but they needed him to shave. He had a beard. So.
Yeah, no one in comedy really had a beard back then. It's kind of interesting to think of.
I had a mustache, which I wore throughout the 2 years of the show. I did Carter and Nixon with a mustache. Why did I have that? I wonder, why? Well, because I thought, well, you know, this isn't going to last. I don't know. Maybe it might not last, and I'll have to be a prison guard, and, you know, I guess... I need that mustache for, you know, for my corrections work. But no, I felt it was a huge break. And I remember that just before going on, we did a thing with Garrett and I rewrote a thing where, you know, he's a lawn jockey, you know, and, you know, and we did this thing where we break into a house where, you know, we're like, burglars that are showing you how vulnerable your house is. And I remember standing back under the stands there and going, you know, this is, you know, this next moment in my life is going to be very key, you know, because if it works, I think it could be a lot of longevity. If it doesn't, you know I can get a good price on that snowplow that I saw, you know, last week, you know. So the import of it was felt that first moment that I went on, you know, yeah.
Alan, Lorraine just mentioned Franklin and Davis. Tell everybody about the writing staff, because it also was just this murderer's row of comedy writers.
Originally there were 10 writers. Lorne was included, Chevy was included, Al Franken, Tom Davis, myself, Tom Chilla, Michael O'Donoghue, Ian Beats, Rosie, right?
Marilyn.
And Marilyn Miller. So those were the 10 writers. And Lorne, the very, very first meeting, I remember him saying, when we said, what's this show going to be like? And he said, well, it's going to be a comedy variety show. But he went on to elaborate, saying that means that was a variety of different kinds of comedy. Oh. Okay? And it was true, because if you look at that writing staff, you know, you had Michael O'Donoghue, who founded the National Lampoon, right? You had me, who was this big Jew gag writer, you know. I got the job based on one joke that I had written for Lorne.
Tell him the joke.
I had said that the post office was about to issue a stamp commemorating prostitutes in the United States. 10-cent stamp. If you want to lick it, it's a quarter, okay? It's so weird, because now I do these college, you know, speaking engagements, and 17-year-old kids go, well, why would you lick a stamp? You know? you just peel it and put it on, you know, fuck. But you had Franken and Davis, who were really funny, but more politically bent. They did the greatest, I think, political satires of the years that we were there. And that was the next year, I think Jim Downey joined us straight out of Harvard, and he also added to that. Michael O'Donoghue's stuff was just from Mars, but amazing. He wrote this Citizen Kane sketch, which was a classic. And I remember every script that he wrote, each page might have had this much dialogue, but this much stage direction, right?
All printed in block printing, just meticulously printed in block printing. In these cards, on this card.
The way graphic artists print. That kind of printing.
Yeah, they were works of art.
Oh, and Herb Sargent.
Yes.
Herb Sargent was one of the original, and he was older than us. He was like in his 50s, and he was like the grown-up. And he had produced a show called That Was the Week That Was, and he had written classic radio shows. So it was really a terrific balance.
That was the origin of Update with Herb there.
That was the origin of Update. The guy from That Was the Week That Was going to move over, and he was going to head this Weekend Update segment of the show.
But everybody had their style. I mean, I don't even know how one would describe Tom Schiller's style. But it just, I thought it was brilliant. It was so funny. And Rosie Schuster, the same thing. And Marilyn Miller, you know, she brought a real kind of feminine perspective that was still edgy enough to be, you know, funny for everybody.
And real truth in character and writing. Marilyn's pieces were always full of, you know, psychological exploration of characters, full of heart.
Yeah.
And depth, you know, just really, really, just I always loved playing her pieces. 'Cause, you know, they, you know, you had to step up and
it was awe-inspiring. I remember I was so amazed being among this group of writers. I would just like wander into their offices, you know, and if they weren't there, I'd look and see what they were working on. And Rosie Schuster, I don't wonder if you remember, she pitched an idea which were the worst. She said she had an idea of the worst gifts that anybody had ever gotten. And number one on the list was when Anne Frank got a drum set.
Wow. So good.
Yeah.
Now, certain cast members naturally fit with certain writers, and certain writers were drawn to cast members. What about for you, Lorraine? Was anyone in particular, any of the writers that you felt you really liked to collaborate with?
I loved everybody's style. And when I got there, I drove to New York with my boyfriend, and I had all of my material from the Groundlings in the car, and the car was stolen.
Oh.
And Lauren said, why don't you do a little kind of presentation for the writers so they can get an idea of what you do? And I had the worst kind of stage fright. I was like out of my body, just kind of like a meat puppet. And I really felt like it wasn't my best foot forward. But then when I got a chance to really just kind of portray my characters while someone was writing and see how that character would fit into a sketch, I began to be able to really communicate what I was doing. But I loved everybody's style.
I'm really even curious, you're talking about that. Do you realize, Lorraine Newman, how much America loves you and has always loved you? It's just, I've always been curious about that.
Thank you. Was that a sad story? Is that why you said that?
But it is true. And you know, each cast member, I think about that original show, that it was always so interesting that everybody had their own spot too, right? Who did you love working with? And you're a writer yourself.
I love being recruited into pieces and saying, we need you to do this or need you to do that, or loved going out and using the skills, you know, of the talents. You know, Davis and I, we wrote stuff for Lorraine and myself, you know, and Lorraine, of course, with us, the three of us writing together. But no, I loved working with him. And Zweibel, I would seek him out to go, you know, our styles are so different. I come from this absurdist English music hall, Canadian CBC sensibility, and you're Catskills Jewish, you know, Yiddish theater, the Lower East Side, you know, that tradition of the Chelm, the sages of Chelm,
yeah.
You know,
It was a lot of Chelm.
Chelm, you know, the sages of Chelm, you know, yeah, the original jokes, you know, the two guys were sitting in the field and a bird, you know, drops something on the shoulder, and the guy goes, you know, oh boy, why should such a beautiful creature do that to me? And the other guy says, better it's not a cow. You know? Well, so I seek Alan out because I want to work with this guy because I know we could do some stuff together, and we did. We always
we wrote
absurd stuff
together. We wrote the movie Dragnet together.
Yeah.
And it was, Dan had written a first draft, and they sent it to me, and of course I wanted to work with Dan again. And we lived together for however long. We went up to Martha's Vineyard to your house, and it was like living with Joe Friday for kids, okay? And the sensibilities were just so different, but there was respect that we both have, and it fit. Do you remember we once wrote a piece, I think it was about an early kind of an ATM, where a guy got all sorts of things that came out of it in addition to cash, including head cheese.
Yeah, you could came
out of there.
We loved that idea of that slip putting out stuff other than money. Yeah, you know.
You also, of course, formed a partnership with Gilda Radner, and tell us some of the things that you guys wrote together.
Well, Gilda and I hit it off immediately, and some of the things that we developed together. I had a hand in Emily Latella, as did other writers, and Rosanna Dana was probably the most. But once again, the show is so collaborative. Even something like Rosanna Dana was it started off many shows earlier. Rosie Schuster had written a public service announcement people. It was called Hire the Incompetent, okay? And Gilda played that woman with that dialect, and I think with that hair, and she was talking about why she got fired from McDonald's, you know, because, and she basically was using the hamburgers as a deodorant pad, okay? And then I was running Weekend Update at that point, so we were out to dinner. I said, remember that character? Why don't we move her into Weekend Update and have her do consumer reports the way, and there was a local WABC newscaster at the time named Roseanne Scamardella. I said, like Roseanne Scamardella, and Gilda, without a millisecond going by, she said, okay, but can we name her Rosanna Dana? Yeah. And I said, how did you come up with that? And remember that song from the 60s, The Name Game, Johnny, Bonnie, Banana?
Yeah.
If you get to like the 6th verse, Rosanna Dana is somewhere. And that became it. And the Richard Feder from Fort Lee, New Jersey is my brother-in-law. So it just became this thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And you had done no sketch writing before.
None. You want to hear another sperm bank joke? No, I got they're freezing sperm now, which is going to be a problem in the future because it's hard enough telling a kid he's been adopted. How do you tell him he's been defrosted? You see what I mean? Okay. So there were just jokes. I learned. I mean, when I walked in and I saw these two guys there, and saw Belushi, and saw Gilda doing what they did, I was totally I had never heard of Second City. I wasn't familiar with it. I wasn't familiar with the Groundlings. So they taught me that there's another way to write.
Well, speaking of the Groundlings, you helped found that group, right? Which is amazing, Lorraine. I mean, if you hadn't done anything besides that, that would have completely helped change comedy because people just keep coming out of there.
I know.
Year after year.
I know. You and John used to razz me so much. What's the name of that group you came from? The Groundhogs? But I'm really very delighted. And it's also, I still go see shows and I do the alumni shows and I get to see these people develop. And then when they end up on Saturday Night Live, it's just like, my kid, you know?
Yeah.
But what I also noticed is like Second City had its own style and flavor. Groundlings had its own style and flavor. The Proposition, which is where Jane came from. Everybody, that's what was also, I think, contributed to how great the show was because we really got, it was like, well, I hate to use the word smorgasbord, but, you know, that's what it was. It was unlike a lot of variety shows that had come before that had kind of one thing, you know? This had many things.
Well, even I think Second City Chicago had a different tone than Second City Toronto. Am I right about that? Then that different sensibility.
Well, both of the Second City shows in Chicago and Toronto embraced the community, embraced the cities that they were working in, embraced their, you know, the cultural elite of each city. You know, we were as hard-edged in Toronto as they were in Chicago. Lots of political humor. And we had the benefit of having Joe Flaris and Brian Murray that summer. And then we switched, we came down in August 74, or in the summer of 74, we brought the Toronto company down to Chicago and they swapped with us and went back. So in August 74, Nixon resigned. So how perfect was that?
Wow.
Yeah. You know, now that I've got some time on my hands, I encourage you to come down to San Clemente Dodge Chrysler. It was just so great to be able to be there the summer he resigned and to be able to do that. And then subsequently after that, of course, Frank and Davis wrote the famous piece where you know, they're praying in the
final days.
The final days, praying in the picture gallery, and I worked with a Secret Service guy. His name was Smokey Wendell, and he was our security guard for Blues Brothers, and he was there with Nixon during those days. And he said that was all on the MS true. That he saw Nixon drunk, he saw him praying, he saw him kneeling, and Smokey has a panda on his arm from when he went to China with Nixon. So he was one of his closest bodyguards at the time, and he witnessed the whole thing. He said that what you did, you guys, was totally accurate.
I think it's also like right away, Washington was paying attention to Saturday Night Live. And I don't think that's gone away since then, that they see.
No, I don't think so, yeah.
They saw it plays
No,
every week.
that hasn't gone away. They're watching very closely, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did both Nixon, and then you later did Carter. And I thought what was interesting is you gave it to both of those guys. You know, I think I always thought that was interesting about us.
Yeah, well, Nixon was just, I mean, wow, what a Machiavellian character. What a wonderful caricature of a human being, you know, and Carter, yeah, we never had a political agenda to come on the side of any cause or another. We just depicted it for humor, you know, and try to make sure that people didn't, you know, they didn't get too full of themselves. We made sure of that.
Right away, you guys felt the show working. I mean, you brought up like Carlin in the first episode, but right away it felt to everybody on the show, this thing is starting to happen.
It felt just different. It was all of basically our first jobs, no matter what we did before. And I remember Lorne saying very early on, the only rule that we had was, he said, let's make each other laugh. And if we do that, we'll put that on television. And he assured us that there was an audience out there that wasn't being serviced this way in comedy, and they would tell their friends about it, and it worked. And I remember it was Lily Tomlin did the 6th show, and then Elliot Gould, the show that we won all those Emmys for the first year, was the 10th show. This thing started growing and gelling, and it took on a momentum of its own. And we went on, God, what a great ride it was, you know?
I knew when Chevy and I would, like by the 4th, 5th show, be walking down the street and hey, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, hey Chubby, hey Chubby, hey Chubby. You know, and he was like, I knew then, boy, that's we're on our way, man. You know, we're on our way.
That happened to me and Gilda too after the slumber party sketch.
Sure.
People were yelling, "That's disgusting!" And I was like, you know, and then I figured it out.
But it is really rare that the popular thing is also the cool thing. You know what I mean? Like so many times you would see shows that were popular, but it was just like you and the Rolling Stones that were popular and cool at the same time. It was an amazing thing.
And Golden Girls, of course.
And Golden Girls, I forgot that one. Well, that was only in certain parts. But when that happened, when you guys became, and it was probably only by the 2nd and 3rd season, but the cast members were at least as popular as the host and the musical guest. That's when it had to start to really feel like some responsibility for you guys.
I remember at one point when the cast started becoming big stars in their own right, I overheard a conversation where it was a very brief discussion about the possibility of doing away with hosts, okay? The conversation didn't last. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And Lawrence felt that, well, you needed somebody to be a focal point, one person to make eye contact with the audience at home through the camera, and then we can do everything else around that person. But initially, I don't remember exactly how many. If you look at the first show, there wasn't that confidence, obviously. This was this was something new. George Carlin had about 4 monologues. You know, Andy Kaufman was on the show. She did Mighty Mouse or something. Valerie Bromfield was on the show. There were 2 musical guests. It was Janice Ian and Billy Preston. So it was a variety show. And then as the cast started gelling, going, okay, fine. This was reduced to 1 monologue and 1 song and all of that, you know?
We also started getting accountants in the 4th year. And I remember during rehearsal once, Gilda and Bill Murray and I were on the stage, and we were talking about what the names of our corporations were, you know? And at one point, Gilda said, "What's happening to us?"
But you couldn't help that, right? I mean, you really were in that position. There was always talk about, you know, Chevy being the first breakout guy because people knew his name. And then when he left the show so early, what was that feeling like for the rest of the cast?
I was sad to see Chevy go because I was a big fan of his work, and he was one of my great supporters. You know, he was always behind anything I was doing, and I loved working with him. His physical ability and his absurdity, and I was really genuinely sad when he left. You know, we all were. We were kind of bummed, but then we got to get Murray.
Yeah.
You know, and then
the new guy.
Yeah. And Murray, essentially, you know, we wanted Murray from the very beginning. It just there wasn't room, and he was doing other stuff. But then the next star to emerge was really Belushi. I think he was the one that and Belushi and Gilda were the huge breakouts there after Chevy. Yeah.
And what was the first of the returning sketches? When did they start to return characters?
If I'm not mistaken, it was the Samurai. Okay. Tom Chilla had written something called Samurai Hotel. Yeah. Okay, with Richard Pryor. And before I got the job at SNL, to supplement my great living I was making, getting $7 a joke, I was working at a delicatessen on Hillside Avenue in Queens. And Lorne came up to me, it was show 11, and he said to me, you worked in a deli, right? And I went, yeah. He said, can you write Samurai Delicatessen? I went, oh, you bet. Then he leaves, and I'm going, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do now? Okay. So to my memory, and then I did Samurai Deli, and then I did all the rest that came. Yeah. And there was certain hosts that we always required, pretty much, when Buck Henry came, because he was the most perfect stooge, you know? So we did about 9 or 10 more afterwards. But I think so, unless... Because the Coneheads came later, right?
Yeah, I think Coneheads came later, but I guess that
Samurai.
Probably, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How did the Conehead idea, because it's pretty
Well,
pretty
you know,
bizarre.
I was sitting there one night, I was sitting in my loft one night, and I was looking at television, and I was thinking, I was just sitting there, and I'm thinking, you know, there's really a lot of unused space between here and... What if the people had taller heads? So I drew it up, and then we had this thing, well, we would be the pinhead lawyers of France. They would be the pinhead lawyers of France arguing a case, and they'd all come, 4 of them would come in, and, they'd touch the cones. And then Lauren said, well, I don't know about that. And, Davis and I think, I don't know, we were in on some of the first, it was Jane, me, Lauren, Rosie, and...
I don't know if you remember this, but in the very beginning, before we were on the air, Lauren thought it'd be a good idea for the cast to do improv at his loft.
Yeah.
To get to know one another, which is a great idea. I think we did it twice. And we were given the suggestion of an alien family.
And so we made
me and Jane.
We made the Coneheads.
And we came up with the voice right away,
Yeah, and I had drawn the sketch up, and that was it. So Davis and we ran with it after that, and then luckily that it was the Coneheads and not that other thing.
So, so in the back of your mind, after these took over, was everybody thinking reoccurring characters? I need a reoccurring character? Or
I don't think it was a pressing issue, but we were mindful that it was successful, it would happen again. I mean, there was the Loud family, and what was it? The family with the real big ass?
Whiteettes.
Yeah, the Whiteettes,
Yeah.
And then characters reoccurred, like, Roseanne and Dana, individual
Fred Garvin.
characters.
Fred Garvin.
Yeah.
Male prostitute. I love that. That's
And Garrett Morris had Chico Escuela, so there were characters that sort of hooked on and go, okay, let's see it again.
As a matter of fact, I don't ever think I heard the name Nerds before those sketches came about. Was that name even?
I think it was in vernacular for school.
School stuff.
And that's another thing about the show that was so great, is that we presented things that our audience, which were just about our age, recognized.
Yeah. That was the thing. And, when people talk about Lorne, it's hard to believe how young he was putting this show together. You're not going to give a show to somebody that young now.
Well, like he said again, I'm not going to do it. You got to give me 7. You're not going to give me 1. He had quite a lot of experience. He'd been producing television in Canada years before, and I had met him in 1969 in the summer. We did a special together. That's how I knew him. And so he was writing as a teenager for Canadian television, and so he started really young.
And then he came and he did Laugh-In.
He did Laugh-In and Lily Tomlin's special.
Yeah.
He worked in Hollywood.
And then I think a Richard Pryor and a Monty Python.
I remember going to the Chateau Marmont. In my 1963 Chevy Biscayne, I drove across country with John DeVicus, my friend who went on to design all the stuff for Ghostbusters, the Stay Puft and all that, my good friend. And we drove across, we went to New Orleans, Tijuana, and then up to LA, and Lauren let us crash in his room in the Chateau Marmont, and he said, you know, in the next year and a half or so, I want to bring back the Colgate-Palmolive Comedy Hour. I want to bring back live TV. And I said, well, you know, give me a call. I'll be there to help. And
Wow.
so he did call.
Wow.
And then maybe audition 9 times. But
Would the show have been as popular if it wasn't live, if you guys would have taken the time to kind of tape
it would have been Fridays,
Yeah.
which had some good talent come out of it, you know, but it's you know, you watch Fridays and you go, it's just, there's some great acts and great talent and great, it just didn't, you know, it just didn't have the edge. It just didn't have the I don't know, the intelligence. It just wasn't us, you know, and I think because they were live to tape, that was a
But
thing.
there's something so exciting about live, that energy. I mean, it's just like doing improv. You know, the audience really, I think, is so receptive to that because they know how risky it is.
It's a high wire act.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
But what is that like as they're counting down? You know, you're a kid, you're in your early 20s, and they're counting down, and you're going to just head out there and spill into everybody's living rooms and bedrooms.
Well, I've always said that, you know, we all came from exactly that format. You do a character, you run off stage in the dark, you change, you come back in the dark, hit your mark, lights go up, and you go. We all came from shows that did that. You know, it was like we were bred for it.
Right. Well, what attracted you guys to improv first? Then you're young, you're in, you know, college age, and you're doing improv.
You know, I mean, it's just like any way to make a living without reeling, you know. I think it was the reputation of Second City was so attractive because, you know, we had heard it was coming to Toronto, and we knew it from Chicago, the reputation of it, and it was really the history and legacy of how where it came out of that was attractive. You know, just intelligent writing, the idea that you could be a writer and a performer and a musician all in one little ball, and do that in one scene, and that they would help you with those skills. You know. It was great. It was, I sort of call it the collegiate of our training, and then Saturday Night Live was the PhD university, you know, program.
It's amazing how much the show is still structured in the same way. Now, you know, you have the guest host, you have the musical guests, you have the reoccurring guests coming on during the news. It hasn't really changed that much. Does anything stand out to you now that seems different?
There's 10 times as many writers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And 20 times as many assistants, and half
wigs.
the studio capacity.
Lots of wigs.
And the studio seems smaller because there's more production going on. But Lorne Michaels is the only guy in the world that can sit in between dress and air and look at those cards and go, that ain't working. That's going to work. That'll be good. I'll put this. Nobody else helps him with that. And he takes about 8 minutes to do it and goes, that's the show. And there's only one guy on earth that can do that.
That's absolutely right.
Him.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just curious, how many people here tonight have ever been to an SNL taping, have ever been there in that studio? It is unbelievable when you just watch the crew of that. You can watch them building sets in the time of a commercial, and you sit there going, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it, over and over.
They're heroic. They really are.
As a writer, okay, I write plays and books and movies now, and if I'm lucky, they see the light of day 2 years from now. Where else can you write something on Monday and it's on television on Saturday? Or, you know, there's a dress rehearsal Saturday night, okay, and the whole show is done in full costume and everything. Then that audience leaves. sketches are rewritten. Like Dan said, Lauren figures out what the show will be. It's pure genius. Okay, that's going to be the show. We rewrite the sketches, get them to cue cards. I would go upstairs, and because it wasn't 24/7 news at the time, it was just the 11 o'clock news. I'd go to my office and watch the news, and if something struck me as funny, I'd write a joke, and it was on TV a half hour later.
Yeah.
The 5 years I was with the show, there were 2 occasions while they were live doing Weekend Update on the air. I was under the desk writing jokes and handing them up.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is it's the kind of the Weekend Update belongs in like 8 or 10 other shows that they're doing, either
Colbert,
daily,
Daily Report,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. It really started it. It really did start that.
And now those writers have to think, did this get done on a different show?
I think they have a tougher time than we did because we were the only ones doing it, and it was the end of the week. By the time Saturday comes along, Colbert's done 5 shows, Conan's done 5 shows, Seth Meyers has done, all of them have done 5 shows. What's going to make them different? Aside from the news that happened on Saturday that they hadn't done yet, you know?
Yeah.
So I think they have a tougher task than we did in some ways.
But they all have their own writers. Again, you know, Conan's writers are fantastic. Daily Show, Colbert, they all have their own voice. That's really, I think, what distinguishes our show, that it's consistently had an original idiosyncratic style representing many people. And you can't even get on shows as a writer like Colbert and these others if you don't have that.
You know what was interesting, and this is kind of stays the same. When Chevy left the Weekend Update, when Dan and Jane came in, they were completely different. It was a completely different show. And that's why I think it survived. You know what I mean? That you did not and they do that over and over with it.
Well, you get Al Franken, now that you had 2 people, Al Franken writes point, counterpoint, Jane, you ignorant slut, you know? And you needed 2 people for that, and you needed Franken to have that voice.
You know, it wasn't my strength, that update. I never really fit in there because I think what was going on was I really wanted to be doing, I wanted to be doing sketches and writing. I didn't want to be the news guy. I knew, you know, and looking at the people who are doing it now, look at Fallon who did it, and look at Seth Meyers, so much more fluid than I ever was because my mind was distracted. I was on something else. I wanted to be in sketches. I wanted to be in character doing something else. So they removed me from that task. But what was great about SNL for the writers was we produced our own sketches. Lauren would say, go with it. And then it wouldn't be Lauren, the producer, talking to wigs or costumes or makeup or sets or design or models. It was us. You know, if I was writing a piece, I'd have to survey it and make sure that surveil it all the way through that it made it through. Franken and Davis would be there, you know, meticulously making sure that their pieces were done. The writers got to produce their pieces from the time they wrote them right until, you know, everybody was applauding on the air. It was total autonomy there. It still works that way today.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you guys look back, because you were so young when this happened, are there regrets? Are there things that you wish you would have appreciated more or not taken as seriously, whatever it happens to be?
Well, I don't know. I think we appreciated it pretty good, having the Stones there, you know, and Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, you know, and Linda Ronstadt. I booked that act. I booked Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow. I said, you guys should come on and sing a song together. Wow. Can you get that? We'll get that together for you, no problem. You know, and I was fully cognizant of you know, just what we were a part of, especially when the musical talents would walk in, Robbie Robertson, the band, you know, the Grateful Dead, you know, wow, what?
Yeah.
You know?
We had Fran Tarkenton host the show, so I came in with a football. What was that? I gave Fran Tarkenton, I brought in a football because I wanted to tell people I caught a pass from Fran Tarkenton, and he threw me a pass, and I dropped it. Okay? And I say, please give me one more shot at this, because I can't get laid by saying I dropped the pass from Fran Tarkenton. It was great. But I think that given that it was our first jobs, I don't know how it is for you guys, but I didn't know that all of show business wasn't that way. There was an immediacy, like I said, about writing a joke and seeing it on TV, or a sketch and it was on TV a couple of days later. The other stuff we did afterwards took a little time, you know, and what I missed was the rush.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
It's like we got a very unique box of crayons that you just couldn't get anywhere else.
And you didn't know that at the time. You thought this is whatever the
Nothing to
start.
compare it to.
Yeah. Well, it also seemed interesting too that almost immediately there were outside influences trying to pull the cast or the writers in different directions, because that also is what Hollywood and TV does all the time. Did you guys start to feel that pressure right off the bat?
Well, I think it was when Animal House was produced. We saw, you know, that the West Coast would be calling for the talents, you know, and they got John, you know, to do it, and Lorne. I knew it was a piece in the New York Times, and I guess this is Landis that said this. I don't know. He said, "Oh, well, Lorne wouldn't let me do the Animal House." That's not true. Lorne's not a warden. You know, he said, "If you want to do it, you're free to go." But I looked at it and I thought, man, Chevy's gone, John's gone. If I leave to do Animal House, he'd be shorthanded, a writer and a performer. And I thought, I'm staying, you know. And I stayed because of that reason, and I'm glad I made my decision to stay, you know.
Yeah. Well, once Animal House happened, and it wasn't just a hit, but this enormous hit that was done in the same kind of comedy that all you guys had been working on for years, then I guess you think to yourself, what is this?
When I look back, that was probably some sort of demarcation, because here was John, who then got to be on the cover of Newsweek by himself. He didn't have you guys on either side of him. So then the culture of the show is almost like, oh, I see. Like from this show, you can get a movie, you can get a TV show. And then there was studio executives who started hanging 8H. They would come in. Remember Sean Daniel from Universal and those people. So it was, Marilyn Miller had a show, I think it was Marilyn, or was it you? Her expression was, "Hey kids, let's put on a show." That's the way it was. That was the attitude. But now the attitude was a little bit different, you know, and it became a little bit more, not so much a means to an end. I don't want to trivialize it like that, but I think people were aware that, oh, there could be something else that comes from this.
And might I say that there were some certain elements of in show business that detected a lucre there for themselves.
And of course, all the cast that came after you realized that, and you guys at least had a couple of years of innocence, but every cast after you was thinking, do I get...
They used to have, I don't know if they still do, maybe you guys know, where if a host liked a certain writer, you can come be that host's writer that week. You can be a guest writer on the staff. So after we had left the show, I think I was a guest writer 3 times. Eddie Murphy had asked, and Gary Shandling, who I created a series for, he asked me, and for whatever reason, when my good friend Jesse Jackson hosted, I was there. But this was like the 7 or 8 years after we left in '80, and the cast were great. There were John Lovitz and Dana Carvey and Phil Hartman. But I saw people, I would pass their offices, and they were reading Variety, and they were reading Wall Journal. So there was a business thing that we weren't aware of or cared about when we were there.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're here as part of Lucy Fest, and I know I've talked to you about this, Alan, before, but you really expected Gilda to be kind of the next Lucy, and
it seemed natural given her physicality and her humor, and there were talks of creating a series for her. You know, that would be Lucy-esque, if you will, which would have, she would be able to flex those muscles. But you know, her career took a different direction. She did movies. She married Gene Wilder, did movies with him, and then she got sick, you know. And the last performance she ever gave was on It's Gary Shandling show, and she was very physical in it, and she got nominated for an Emmy Award as a guest performer. And it was like the shade of what could have been, but then, you know, she passed away.
You know, I talked about this before I brought you out, that it looks like you're taking Bunny Bunny back to Broadway now.
I hope so. It's not in my hands. It's,
Yeah.
you know, if all goes well, yes. If not, it won't be, you know.
And that was a very kind of yes, of course. A very complicated relationship that you two had.
It was a platonic love affair. And it was not my idea to be platonic, okay?
Yeah.
But I said, okay, if this is the rules we got to play by, fine. But one of these days you'll open your eyes and see the glory that's sitting in front of you. And that lasted the 14 years that I knew her. She was my platonic buddy. And then when she got sick, I remember I went to Cedars-Sinai to give blood. And while I'm on the gurney, the nurse gave me a pad and a pen. And I said, what's this for? She said, well, Gilda likes to know whose blood she's getting. Can you write her something nice? She's having a tough time. So I wrote, Dear Gilda, I knew I'd get some fluid of mine into you one way or another.
Dan, of course, your great platonic love affair was John Belushi.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, we fell in love the minute we met. I remember he came to Second City to recruit for National Lampoon. He wanted to raid. He raided Gilda, and he wanted me to go, but I had that, as I say, those little things going on in Toronto, little side things, rackets, and I bought my motorcycle, which I'm giving to the museum.
Yes.
Yeah, that very bike. I bought that very bike. And then he walked in the back door of Second City one night, and it was a blizzard, going, and the back door opened, and the snow swirled around him, and there he was in silhouette, and he had kind of an old driver's cap on, and very underdressed. He had a scarf on and a cable knit sweater, and jeans and white sneakers, not dressed for Canadian winter at all, and he just swirled in this, this kind of, magnetic whirlwind of snow and talent and charisma, well, that was the end there. That we cooked up the Blues Brothers that night. I mean,
wow.
Back at the 505 Club, the club we went to, yeah. Wow. Yeah. First night we met, we had, and I said, what's this music? I said, well, this is just Downchild Blues Band, a local blues band. And he said, blues, yeah, it sounds good. I said, well, John, you're from Chicago. I mean, you must know blues. I like Grand Funk and heavy metal and cream. And I'm into heavy, he was into the punk. I said, you can teach me about that, and we'll go over the blues together. And by the time I got to New York, when I finally moved, he had 300 blues records, and he was picking songs for our first record.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we went to the Lone Star Cafe. Our first backup band was Willie Nelson. Yeah. So we brought the act to the show, and here, some 40 years later, at the House of Blues on August 28th, I have a performance with his brother. We call him Brother Z, and I'm out there in the Elwood persona, and that's like 40 plus years later, still doing it.
That's great.
Yeah.
We promised this audience that we would answer some questions from them as well. So I don't know.
You would ask them some questions? Or?
Thank you very much. By the way, have they not been amazing here tonight? All right. The first question is for Lorraine. What was it like working with Jane and Gilda? Because you three.
Well, we were kind of huddling in a corner, naked and shivering, being the only girls and sharing a dressing room for the first 4 years. And I loved them. I think we loved each other a lot and appreciated one another very much. It was very cooperative. I think when you come from an improv background, it's just much more supportive.
You wanted the others to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where stand-up comedy is just evil, terrible, dark-hearted people hoping their friends die on
Yes,
stage.
it's that black and white.
This was a question for each person. What was your personal breakthrough moment on SNL?
The Valley Girl was...
Yes.
Godfathered with Therapy, which was the monologue I did at the Groundlings.
But you were the first person ever to bring that persona, I believe, to
You're
television.
welcome, and I'm sorry.
Dan, what about for you? A personal breakthrough?
I don't know. I think it was that first moment that I was, as I mentioned before, that first moment before going on stage and then coming off after the sketch had gone well. And we got the laughs that we wanted. And we come off and I realized, yeah, this could work. This could work. You know, it just, yeah, it was that after that first sketch. Yeah.
Alan, even though you had the success of a $7 joke writer, there had to be...
Anyone want to borrow any money? I thought, yeah.
There had to be that moment for you to see something done that was yours.
Well, yeah. Look, the first joke that I ever had on the show was that stamp joke that I did before. That was in the very first Weekend Update, and I heard an audience laugh. And there was a validation there, go, okay, maybe I can write more things that can make them laugh. And as I learned to write sketches, and we were doing a lot of commercial parodies at the time, and you got a certain amount of confidence from it. So,
what was the car commercial for what?
The Briss?
What was the name of the car?
Royal Deluxe 2.
The Royal Deluxe 2, where the Moyle is in. So smooth. Even a Moyle can do his work and not, you know.
So smooth.
And we used the name of my actual rabbi when I was growing up because he wouldn't let me go out with somebody who wasn't Jewish, and I knew I'd get back to him someday. So,
the next question, do you each have a Gilda story to share?
I remember Gilda was the only person that could really whip Belushi into shape and give him a sense of conscience, you know. And when he was kind of running, you know, over the other girls and kind of, you know, like dismissing their talent and, you know, but he did believe in their talent. He really believed in the talent of the three girls, but his way was sometimes to be dismissive about it and pejorative. And Gilda, you know, was able to kind of, you know, bring him back and make him realize that those convictions were wrong. She had a lot of power over John because he respected and loved her, and he respected her talent, and he respected her as an equal.
And you had just brought up to me on that it's almost 30 years that Gilda's been gone.
Uh-huh.
That is hard to believe. It really is.
It's amazing, and it's amazing to all of us because she still lives. You know what I mean? Her spirit is still there. And people watch her show, you know, our shows, and you know, there's a documentary called Love Gilda, which is about her that opened the Tribeca Film Festival a couple of months ago. Just think that she was one of those rare personalities that people felt that they knew her, even if they never met her, you know? So it's really quite remarkable. John was that way too. Belushi was that way too. I think people felt a huge sense of loss when John died.
Yeah, and he was cute. I don't think he liked that, but he was cute.
Belushi, yeah. The Tasmanian Devil.
Pigpen.
He had a body like the Tasmanian Devil, long torso, short legs, and he could move like the Tasmanian Devil. And boy, could he move, man. He could move. I mean, you saw him dance in those movies.
Yeah, there's never been a front man in a band with that shape in any other band.
No.
This was for you, Dan. The refrigerator repair guy. Did you plan on showing the butt crack?
Well, of course, that was written into the piece. As you know, refrigerator repairman comes in, and it was basically, you know, something that I got doing in someone's living room as a joke one time, and so we brought it to the show, and everybody knew it was going to be revealed, but what the censor had a problem with the pencil. He said, if you put that pencil there, I'm going to cut to black so quick you can't even believe it. So Davis was ready with a shot of whiskey. His name was Jay. Remember Jay?
Jay Otley.
Jay Otley. And Jay liked to have a drink now and again. The moment that I was to take the pencil out behind my ear and place it, if I place it there, Davis slid over the whiskey. Jay, have a shot, have a shot. And Jay looked away and had the shot and missed the... He went like this and, no, too late. Oh, you put that pencil, he was so mad at me.
I mean, it sounds so tame now, given what's on TV.
Sure.
But back then, do you remember we had a sense of Jane Crowley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 300 pounds, ex-nun, dress shield, who I'm talking about. She would sit in the control room reading the script during dress rehearsal. This was her last shot to censor us because we go on the air live. And I remember once Michael O'Donoghue called me up and said, Alan, for Weekend Update, what if we did a product? It was brought to you by a product that we made up. So I said, go for it. So this one particular week, O'Donoghue had Don Pardo say, and now Weekend Update brought to you by Pussy Whip. The dessert topping for cats, okay? And it worked great. So the next week I wanted to do one. So during dress rehearsal, I had Don Pardo say, and now Weekend Update brought to you by Blue Balls, B-L-E-U, Blue Balls, the cheese snack from France. Everyone loved it. We're going to do it on the air except one person. The door of the control room opens. Out waddles Jane Crowley. She comes up to me and says, Alan, you can't do that when you go on the air. I said, can't do what? She said, you can't do blue balls. You can't say blue balls. And I said, why? And she says, because it has to do, with the male genitalia. And I said, Jane, last week, you let us say pussy whip, which is clearly the female genitalia. But now this week, what kind of sexist organization are you running here? She goes back to the control room, picks up a phone, calls God, I guess. 10 minutes, she comes waddling out, and she says to me, Alan, I thought about it. And because I gave you pussy whip last week, I'll be more than happy to give you... And I remember saying, that's not necessary. Just let us say it on television. We'll call it even,
Oh, wow.
It's like you were living in a movie while you were doing a TV show, right? I mean, this had all the plots of a major comedy all the time.
Yeah, but you look at, I meant to mention, as a writer, we'd go in to read through, and there's a natural kind of, sort of a competition. I'd listen to the other writers, what they wrote, and go, gee, I should have thought of that. Oh, damn, I missed that one. But when this guy wrote something, I knew it was nothing that I could ever think of. If I live to be 1,000, there's no way I can write Bassomatic where you drink a fish. Okay? So I just sat back and enjoyed the ride,
Yeah. And that is the great thing about comedy is like, you don't have to have anything in common or a political belief that you agree with or it can still make you laugh no matter what it is. And I don't know how any other art form where, you see like the country artists go, but I also like ballet. It just doesn't exist the way it does in comedy. All right, here's another
just
question.
Real personal.
Yeah.
It's very.
What sketch was the biggest surprise to you in terms how the audience reacted, whether that was good or bad?
This was a surprise because what happened was a surprise, but there's a famous underground tape called the Trogs tape. And there was this band, the Trogs, that came out with a song called Wild Thing. And then the next thing that they tried to do, or the sound guy recorded their bickering in the recording studio. And so they wrote a sketch based on this thing, setting it in medieval times. Danny and John had already left the show, but John came back as the queen. And Paul Schaefer said the F word on TV.
And I remember running into the control room, which was like an oil painting. That was a surprise.
I think the when Steve Martin and I did the Czech Brothers, that just exploded. Yeah, that just wow. Yeah, that reaction was big. We didn't know it'd be that big. Yeah, and you know, Garrett was so good in that, man. He was so great. Yeah.
That was also amazing that Steve's rise was at the same point of the show. And of course, once you had that show with, you know, the Blues Brothers and Steve Martin and all, it just felt like you were running everything in popular culture by that weekend. I don't think that we have, even as big as the show is now, nothing has everyone watching it. But I think your show had everybody from teenagers to at least people in their mid-30s sharing that experience.
Yeah, I don't think people stay home on Saturday night to watch it anymore because they watch it on YouTube now. So
right.
But people were staying home. They wouldn't go to parties. They would shut parties down.
Yeah.
Now it's all every time, all the while. So you know, there's no appointment television anymore, and they can just see it anytime they want. But you have certain artists like Steve Martin, Melissa McCarthy, Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, they are essentially cast members of SNL.
Yeah.
You know, because they've done so much of the work with us and with, yeah, you know.
All right, here's another question from the audience. Do you have a favorite non-recurring character from SNL?
Did you do Fred Garvin more than once?
I did Fred Garvin a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I love that character.
That non-recurring character. Well, I remember we did this scene, Dave Mabel's Danger Probe, you know, and it was two Belgian fops at a bar, a biker bar or something. And after the sketch, Donahue came up to me and Davis and said, that was the single worst piece of writing I've ever seen. Ever. So he shot us down and we never did Dave Mabel's Danger Probe again.
I had a piece that I had great hopes for called the Walker Brigade. Now, this was, I had thought that during World War II, there was this brigade.
Elite.
Yeah, that's elite, who found a loophole in the Geneva Convention that you can't shoot at a soldier who's using an ambulatory device. So Jim Signorelli, we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to where there's an army base there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we had all these actual soldiers, you know, sludging through the water, you know, with walkers, jumping out of a plane with walkers, okay? That big boat would come and the door would come and they'd come off with walkers. And I'm going, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. Not one laugh. Because I thought the Walker, oh God, I'll be coming to Fort Dix a lot, I guess. No, never.
Anything for you, Lorraine?
In Update once, I played Sid Vicious's mother with Brian Doyle Murray next to me, looking like he was in shock, saying, he's a really good boy, you know. This was an accident with Nancy. It's a complete accident. He's not like that at all, you know. And I love doing that character, but it died a rat's death.
Yeah.
No laughs. No laughs.
But isn't it funny how you just trust that audience, that in-studio audience, to be all of America? You know, like, we don't know if people were laughing like hell at home at that, but
that's how it was in the beginning. We had no idea if we were being watched, if anybody liked us.
If there was a UCLA basketball game that ran to overtime, we would go on sometimes at 11:45 or even midnight. So we had no idea.
But by the second year, you guys were pretty sure that things were.
Well, I think what happened was we won a bunch of Emmys the end of the first year. The Emmys used to be in May. So we went out there to California, and it was a primetime audience that saw this show that they never heard of, all these awards. So I think that that's what helped in terms of moving it into the consciousness of the audience of America.
And then you had big movie stars coming to do the show, Sissy Spacek. this was the vehicle to help open their movies, to help open their records. It became the currency to a mainstream audience by people who had basically product to sell, and we served them well. We opened a lot of movies for people and opened line, sold a lot of records.
You got guys like Leon Redbone, if you remember.
Yeah.
Well, no one heard of him, came on the show and he exploded.
Well, not only were you able to do that, but you're also throwing the best party in the country every weekend at the Blues Bar after. So suddenly people that weren't doing the show that week would show up just to hang out with you guys. So
we'd have the main party at a restaurant or something, and then I would race down and whatever on the motorcycle, usually, even in the winter, and I'd race down and throw open the armor and open this hole that we had at the corner of Hudson and Dominic with an open sewer. I mean, it was open.
Yeah, it's
open,
like that scene in Train Spotting, the dirtiest.
Yeah, that's about
This was dirtier.
It was, yeah. But I always had fresh roses on the bar and lots to drink and lots to eat and everything. And I remember one night we had Francis Ford Coppola attending bar. David Bowie was jamming with ZZ Top. And, it was a great, and the limos would be lined out upside this old longshoreman's bar down. And, why there in this place? Well, some of the most creative people in the world were gathering there every Saturday. Yeah. Yeah,
it was a real center of the arts universe, and that was.
Yeah, we had a great jukebox, and we had acts we had drums and guitars and amps, so people would jam, right? I remember.
Band.
Yeah, who?
The Stink Band.
Yeah, Stink Band. Keith Richards, hanging there, and I would routinely close the place at 10:30 in the morning. I'd be the last one there, and I'd shut and lock the door, and that was it.
That's a bad moment when you go in at night and the sun is up the next day.
Yeah.
Icky.
See everybody coming home from church. I got to tell you guys, this was an amazing, amazing night to hear these stories, and I thank you for sharing them with us.
Thank you.
What a place to be. Alan's Weibel.